Hey, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Kaylee, and this is Read, Rant, Review, where, you guessed it, I read a bunch of crazy books, and then I tell you all about them. Today we are going to be talking about Bunny by Mona Awad. This book was published in 2020, and currently on Goodreads, it's sitting at a 3.45 with nearly 350,000 ratings. Very popular book, but I feel like also somehow obscure. It's one of those books that definitely falls into like the weird girl literature category that I feel like I get recommended constantly on Instagram. If you know the genre and the types of posts and accounts that I'm talking about. Point being, though, I have had this book recommended to me a ridiculous amount, and I feel like it has just been following me for the last 6 years since its release. So it's about time I read it, and it's about time I talk to you guys about it. So today we will be doing a chapter-by-chapter, beat-by-beat breakdown of this book, make some commentary, some jokes along the way. I only have one rule on my channel if you are new here. And if you're not, say it with me. Don't make it weird, okay? That's my only rule. Whatever you think that means, it means that and more. Don't make it weird in my comments. The only other thing that I would just like to put on here as a disclaimer is that my reviews are not for the authors. My reviews are for fellow readers. So I'll catch you on the next one. If you are the author, friends, fans, family, stans of the author, anything of the like, the video's not for you. That's cool. I'll check you later. Viewer discretion is advised. This is pretty gory, pretty violent stuff that we're going to be talking about in this particular video, more so than the other books that I've covered. So just if you're not used to that, just want to give you a heads up there. If you got to tap out at any point for whatever reason, protect your peace. No hard feelings here, and I will, again, catch you in the next one. So the book Bunny, in case you were curious and you have no idea what I'm even talking about, I'll go ahead and read you the book description, and we'll dive right in. We were just these innocent girls in the night trying to make something beautiful. We nearly died. We very nearly died, didn't we? Samantha Heather Mackey couldn't be more of an outsider in her small, highly selected MFA program at New England's Warren University, a scholarship student who prefers the company of her dark imagination to that of most people. She is utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearably twee rich girls who call each other Bunny and seem to move and speak as one. But everything changes when Samantha receives an invitation to the Bunny's fabled smut salon and finds herself inexplicably drawn to their front door, ditching her only friend Ava in the process. As Samantha plunges deeper and deeper into the Bunny's sinister yet saccharine world, beginning to take part in ritualistic off-campus workshop where they conjure their monstrous creations, the edges of reality begin to blur. Soon, her friendships with Ava and the Bunnies will be brought into deadly collision. The spellbinding new novel from one of our most fearless chroniclers of the female experience, Bunny is a down-the-rabbit-hole tale of loneliness and belonging, friendship and desire, and the fantastic and terrible power of the imagination. Okay, this is exciting. This is fun and funky, and I think a little bit different than what we normally cover on the channel. Truth be told, right, you, me, right here, right now, I'm only on chapter 6, I believe, in the book so far as I'm coming into this, giving this review to you. So we are going to be experiencing this pretty much live together, or at least in chunks. So if there's something that I'm missing, if there's some big plot thing that happens later on, I might sound dumb if you've read the book, but we'll see how that goes. And also, with that being said, the book description pretty much caught you up exactly to where I am in the book. I feel like I haven't missed anything. Only other thing to note about this book, it is split into 3 parts. So in part 1, that is where we are introduced to Samantha, to her MFA program that she's in, which is a master's, I believe, in fine arts, of fine arts. It's one of those degrees. It's a writing master's degree is what she's trying to get, though. So we meet her. She's coming back from summer break. She is at a party, and she is hanging out with her friend Ava, who is also an outcast. But she dropped out of one of the neighboring universities, dropped out of her program, and is doing her own thing. But Ava and our main character, Samantha, are friends, both, again, being outcasts in this, like, really ritzy area. The other person who she kind of confides in or finds a little bit of, like, camaraderie with is a guy named Jonah. The bunnies refer to him as Psycho Jonah. And don't worry, I will have a name list up on the screen in case you get lost along the way. I try to put those on all of my videos if they need it. So if at any point you feel a little confused about what the heck I'm talking about, just look up on the screen. I'll have something up here for you. So Jonah, also a kid that's here on scholarship, didn't go to some elite university for his bachelor's degree, just kind of here trekking along, feeling kind of weird, the same way that Samantha and Ava are, right? Okay, cool. The other group that we're introduced to is the bunnies, as mentioned in the book description. These are 4 women that are described almost as one, you know the type of people that they run into each other and they're like, oh my God, I missed you so much. And it's just like screaming, even if they saw each other like 5 minutes ago. And so that's exactly what they're doing at this party. They've been apart for maybe a couple of weeks, but they're just like squealing and gripping and like all up in each other's business and like, oh my God, I missed you so much, bunny. No, I missed you, bunny. No, I missed you, bunny. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, bunny. It literally, that word gets said, how many times in this book? 425? Holy crap. I was not expecting it that much. Yeah, bunny or bunnies is said 425 times in a 280 page book. Yikes. If that doesn't tell you how like aggressive this clique of women are. So they're referred to as bunnies, but there is some noticeable differences between them that we receive. And so we have Duchess, Cupcake, Creepy Doll, and Vignette are the 4 different bunnies. And then the only other person that we get introduced to at this party in like chapter 1, chapter 2 time frame is a guy named the Lion. Obviously, he has a real name. I don't think I'm given it yet, but he is just known as the Lion, and he is just immediately bad vibes whenever Samantha sees him at this party. Like, there's just this like kind of itching to want to stay away from him, but also at the same time, she wants to confront him and ask him what happened, or if they can just get over what happened between them. Whatever the heck that means. Just kind of weird vibes all around. The only other thing to note about this party is there's one point where Ava and Samantha are eavesdropping on the bunnies' conversations. They say something just outright silly, goofy. Ava bursts out laughing, and then they all stare at each other from like across the room at each other and have like a staring contest situation. And eventually, one of the bunnies begins waving. Samantha waves back, and it is almost described as this like religious experience of them acknowledging each other and waving at each other, and like, oh my God, they do see me, is kind of how it's described. But this feeling immediately goes away when she stops waving and then looks back over at her friend Ava, and she's looking at me like I'm something worse than a stranger. Uh-oh. Keeping in mind this entire first chapter, all Samantha was talking about was how much the bunnies disgust and annoy her, and then she's being all buddy-buddy with them. Or at least like fake nice waving to them. But this escalates because the next day when Samantha goes to check her mail because she's trying to see if she got her stipend check for the month, she instead finds an invitation from the bunnies inviting her to the smut salon. This is a very exclusive invitation, a very big deal, and she is almost like so flattered she can't believe it. She's like, this can't be for me. They don't like me. We don't get along like that. Why would they even... This is so weird. While she's picking up this letter and kind of like in her own mind about this, though, another person is there checking for his stipend check. It is Jonah, or Psycho Jonah. Here, I'll go ahead and I'll read you this so you also get kind of a feel for the writing here as well. Soup bowl haircut, an unzipped parka that he never takes off. Underneath, he's wearing a t-shirt featuring a kitten playing keyboards in outer space. Jonah's a recovering addict who is so saturated with meds that he speaks as though his voice is tunneling through sludge. He's the best poet in the program by far. Also the friendliest, the most generous with cigarettes. I don't quite know why he's so reviled by his fellow poets. Apart from a couple of mixed genre classes, poets and fiction writers tend to be siloed from one another both academically and socially, but I've seen Jonah trailing behind his cohort on the street, sitting in the far corner of the class and workshop, smilingly staring into space while they eviscerate him with their feedback. I know what this feels like, of course. The difference is Jonah doesn't seem to care. He appears to be more or less content to remain adrift and immune in his poetry cloud. So, like we said, similar setup in that regard of being outsiders, not really feeling like they belong in the university. Biggest difference being this is something that is very clearly eating away at Sam, which we'll talk about a little bit more, because she does want to be liked, right? Like, she does want to fit in. She does want to have friends. And a lot of my interpretation thus far, anger and hatred and stuff that she's feeling at the bunnies is maybe a little bit of misogyny, maybe just a little bit of jealousy, and just wishing that she had friends and had that type of like camaraderie with people. And it's just a jealousy thing, right? It's just like this projecting jealousy thing of like, that's why it's getting under her skin so badly. It's not that it's vapid. It's not that it's fake. It's not that, she's like, I can feel the hatred boiling under their skin for each other. Like, this is so fake. It's like, is it though? Or like, are you kind of hoping it is, right? Like, are you hoping that it's worse than what it looks like? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But anyway, her and Jonah continue to talk a little bit of bonding, maybe a little flirtatious. I don't think she realizes it, but it seems that he kind of likes her and trying to have some conversation. And then she goes to leave. Down the corridor behind Jonah, I hear the elevator ding and my stomach flips, because I know before the doors even open who it will be. I know even before I see his tall, sleek frame exit the doors whistling. Mane, a carefully cultivated chaos, arms inked with watchful crows. The lion, approaching us, wearing his usual obscure noise band t-shirt. I should just walk over there like I've imagined doing how many times, tap him on the shoulder and say, "Look, can we just talk?" He'll look surprised, perhaps, caught off guard. Talk? He'll say, his gaze sliding from side to side, assessing escape routes, as if it's a highly suspicious activity that I'm proposing. Illicit. I'm afraid I can't talk now, Samantha, but perhaps you could come by during my office hours. Or perhaps he'll play dumb, look at me with a chillingly neutral expression, revealing nothing. Sure, Samantha, what's up? Meeting my eyes, like, go ahead, absolutely, please talk. So definitely something between her and the lion, which assumably, considering he has office hours, is a professor, which is very concerning because she's a student, and that makes me scared. And so with him approaching, she makes any excuse she can to run away as quickly as possible, and we go into chapter 3. She goes outside, runs into Ava, who's going to walk with her home, and then they begin talking. We get a little bit of a recap about everything that has happened with some more input. Right? For example, this is where we learn that Jonah most definitely has a crush on Samantha. And then also a little bit more information, because Samantha tells Ava that, yeah, I know I'm acting a little off right now. It's because I ran into you know who. And no, I couldn't face him after everything. I trail off because she's staring at me intently, and I can't tell if she's disappointed in me or angry at him. And then says you should really consider setting his office on fire. So more and more, I'm assuming that this is not very good. And this is the last day before the semester begins. And so her and Ava are hanging out and kind of celebrating and, going and getting food and blah, blah, blah. And then they end up having this dance where they take turns of who will be the lead. Hold on, where does this go? We're practicing tango. Like we did all summer, taking turns being Diego for each other. Diego is an imaginary panther-footed man that we will dream one day will come into our lives and whisk us off our very large feet. He has the smolderly, dangerously mesmeric looks of Rudolph Valentino, but with the trustworthy eye crinkle of Paul Newman. The smiling insanity and very long torso of Lux Interior, and the cramps with the swoon-inducing eagerness of Jacques Brel. Diego wears white suits or black Cuban shirts printed with orange flames. He bakes bread for us in the morning. He cuts fresh flowers and leaves them in jars all over our apartment. He does not write poetry, but he reads it for fun. It's just like little silly, goofy things, right? So they just like pretend to be Diego, and they take turns who's leading and who's closing their eyes, pretending that they are with, I don't know, this like beautiful man that will whisk them away. But Samantha cannot stop thinking about this invitation from the bunnies. And she even gets a text message from one of them asking, "Are you coming tonight?" with a little smiley face. So eventually Ava clocks this. She's like, "Hey dude, what the frick is going on? Like, you're obviously not here. Just like tell me, okay? Like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings, just what's up?" So finally Samantha pulls out the invitation, shows it to Ava, and she's like, "You're not actually going, right? Like, you're not actually going to do this?" She's like, no, of course I wouldn't. Ava says, "Okay, let's just get rid of the invitation then. And whips out a freaking lighter and she's going to light this thing on fire. And all of a sudden, Samantha, she's like, no. I mean, I'm going to be in class with them all semester. I have to figure out a nice way to say no, but I have to go or I have to acknowledge them. I can't just not do it. So Ava, eventually, she's just like, you know what? That's fine. Do whatever you think is right. Because obviously you don't want to hear anything from me. And then Samantha, eventually, she's like, okay, fine. I'll go for an hour tops. I'm just going to make an appearance. Whatever, dude. Okay. And that's what happens in chapter 4. Samantha goes to the bunny's house. She is going to the smut salon to see what the heck is up. And I already hate this because she ends up knocking on the door and like nobody comes. It's just awkward and she can hear them inside and she's just standing out there. Hours, so much time has passed. The sun has set and she is still just like standing on their porch, just like waiting for them. And then more and more she's like, but I have to get inside because the neighborhood's dangerous. Even as safe as this is, it's dangerous at night. And that gets said quite a bit. And there was even a line earlier when we were talking about Ava, or we were learning about Ava and her like anti-Warren, which is the town that they're in, Warrenness, is the fact that like anytime that they would run into kids touring the university, she would like yell at them and interrupt the tour and be like, what they don't tell you is people are dying left, right, and center. Like people are getting got in this town. What? So apparently there's some shenanigans afoot. This is not a safe place. And so this is getting like reiterated now through, Samantha's eyes of like, hey, I need to actually be inside this freaking house. It's getting dark out. Eventually, the sounds kind of stop. She looks up and she sees the bunnies staring at her from one of the windows. And then they like skitter away. And then she gets a text message from an unknown number that is the emoji of the monkey like covering its eyes. That is so scary. And then all of a sudden, as she's like processing all of this, the door opens and then she sees one of the bunnies, Cupcake, staring her in the face. That is so creepy. And this is where I do want to say off of the bat of like the way that the bunnies get described when they're referred to as the bunnies does seem like an anthropomorphic, is that the word? Thing where they're like actual bunnies and they can't be told apart and it looks like they're just like literally identical clones of each other or described as being like literal rabbits. And then when she refers to them as their individual names, right, as Cupcake, Duchess, Vignette, and Creepy Doll, they have actual like qualities and traits that makes them individuals. And so like once I got to this point in the book where we get very specific information about each of these, I'm like, whoa. I'm over here picturing these women as like very stereotypical, like Hollywood vapid sorority girl. Not the case, like literally at all. I'm staring into the eyes of the one I call Cupcake because she looks like a cupcake, dresses like a cupcake, gives off the scent of baked lemony sugar, pretty in a way that reminds you of frosting flourishes, not the forest green and electric blue horrors of the supermarket, but the pastel kind that is used at weddings or tasteful Easter gatherings. She looks so much like a cupcake that when I first met her at orientation, I had a very real desire to eat her, bite deeply into her white shoulder, dig a fork into her cheek. Tonight, she dresses of cerulean blue patterned with sinuous white clouds in one of her many matchy cardigans. Blonde hair, freshly flat ironed, lips shiny but colorless because lipstick is for whores, bunny, I've heard her say, and I really couldn't tell if she was joking or dead serious. Glinty pearls around her neck that she never takes off. She'll often gently tug on them in workshop while reading aloud from her work. The most recent iteration of which was post-feminist dialogues between herself and various kitchen implements. Okay, so that's Cupcake, who her name is Caroline. So again, I will have them up on the screen. But anyway, that's the kind of thing I'm meeting, right? So we get this like very detailed thing about her. We get more and more names assigned to the other ones, right? Creepy Doll is Kira. Vignette is named Victoria. And then Duchess is known as Eleanor, like is her actual name. Right. Creepy Doll. Here's her description. I look into the amber eyes of the one I call Creepy Doll because she reminds me of the creepy dolls I used to want when I was little, with their saucer eyes and their velvet dresses, their Shirley Temple curls of blood red hair, and their Cupid's bow lips molded into little pink O's of wonder at the world. Writes fairy tales about girl demons, wolf princesses, and cozy phantasmagoria. of her native New Hampshire, collects antique typewriters, each of which she claims has its own unique ghost energy that she channels into her stories as she types, head tilted back, eyes closed. She is the literal doll pet of the other bunnies, sits curled in their skirted laps like a cat, purrs when they pet her, makes hissing sounds when they stop. Her voice is the feathery baby voice of children in horror films. I have heard that same voice go down about 5 octaves when she thinks she is alone, become deep as well. Out of all of them, she is the first to usually extend a social hand to me in the form of a random troll emoji or last-minute invite to places they already are. Again, just like such fascinating descriptors of these women that initially I thought that they were all just like cookie cutter. And then you're giving me all these crazy details about them. It's just interesting, right? Vignette is their sexy punk, the bluntest of the bunnies. Writes for shock value. Existential vignettes about Disney princesses engaged in blood orgies, feral girl women crawling around on all fours at the bottom of wells of the mind, munching Barbie doll parts, looks stoned most of the time as if she's perpetually enveloped in opium smoke. She is apparently a ballerina in another life before she went off the rails, discovered conceptual art and slouching. And then Duchess, she's staring at me with a neutral expression of infinite patience, the same expression she wears whenever I speak in workshop. Of all of them, her prose is the most inaccessible and cryptic, etched on panes of glass using a dagger-shaped diamond she wears around her neck. She calls them proems. If forced to say something about her work in class, I'll describe it as jewel-like and enigmatic. And she'll look at me like she knows I'm lying, like she's my therapist and I'm trying to pull a fast one on her, which she expected. But come on, Samantha, let's get, serious here. Like she knows I think I'm better than everyone else. Like my stammering shyness, my headphones, my dark, unassuming clothes, my politeness are all well and good, but she can see through it. Yes, Samantha. And what she sees, what it's masking, is a very deep hate, a very deep rage, a very deep social bruise. What happened there, Samantha? Like she knows that I have nicknamed them all, and well, how sad really. But being a moon goddess, a more highly evolved artist, a being full of nothing but love and tropical shore, though she is Upper West Side via Charleston, she's going to tolerate it, love me from a distance all the same, wish me well on my stunted little path where I clutch my rage close like a book or a pet rat. We're all on our own paths after all, aren't we? What the hell? These are some crazy descriptions of these bunnies. And this is what I mean, where I'm like, oh, this is like projection a million times over, right? Possibly. So anyway, that's literally all of those descriptions of each of those bunnies takes place as they like open the door and Samantha walks in. It's like every one of them she looks at, we get these like crazy descriptors of. And they're all so overly polite, Cupcake's like, oh, let me take your jacket. She's not even wearing a jacket. And then they invite her inside to have a seat and, come on, get a drink. We're so glad you could make it after all. We came up with a cocktail just for you. For me, something breaks in me. That strange heart swell I felt when I first saw my name on the swan's wing. It was the card that had the invite for her. It was like in the shape of a swan. So on the swan's wing is where the invite was. Not believing it could be for me, but could it be for me? They all nod. Yes, Samantha, for you. Oh. Okay. Yeah, cool. I'll take one. I stare at the bile green concoction in which what looks like a small black turd floats. I want to ask what's in it, but this seems rude somehow when they're all still smiling at me like this. Oh my God, that's scary. And so she drinks it and it's like so bitter and bad and disgusting. And they're like, oh my God, are you okay? And she's like, oh, I love it. I do. And then they laugh at her. What's so fucking funny, I want to say, but I don't. I laugh with them. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, Samantha, we're so glad you're here, the Duchess says. And she apologizes about being late. And so she goes and takes a seat around their coffee table. And on it, there's like stacks of books. It's a bunch of classics, right? You got Lord Byron, John Keats, Emily Bronte, Ovid, and then a book from The Lion, the professor guy or whatever the heck he is that she keeps having these like weird feelings about whenever she comes across him. Happens again. She sees his name on here His infamously horrific and debauched novel, a fever dream about a sociopathic Scotsman who engages in deeply philosophical acts of homicide against women, has been reverently placed atop an anthology of Russian fairy tales. I flush at the sight of his name on the cover, at the cover itself. When the Duchess sees me eyeing it, she tucks the book discreetly under the pile. How much they think they know about what transpired between the lion and me last year is anyone's guess. They probably think I fucked him. Maybe it's even the reason they kept their distance from me, or maybe he and I got close because they kept me at a distance. I don't know. All last fall in workshop, they'd side-eye each other if he praised my stories, because surely they'd seen me leave class with him, walked past us chatting together in the hall, observed us exchanging books and vinyl, caught us sitting together in the cafes or in the basement of the Irish pub having a drink, another drink, and one more for the road, why not? They'd noticed him walk over and talk to me at department functions, sit beside me at readings. Then, in the winter semester, they might have observed how quite all of a sudden, all of this stopped. They might have observed how quite suddenly all of this stopped, that he no longer sat next to me at readings or talked to me at parties or met me off campus. And then, of course, in spring, on the night of the end of the year party, they definitely observed me drunk in the passenger seat of his Subaru. Uh-oh. I want to defend myself against these unspoken accusations, against the microaggressive manner in which the Duchess now smilingly straightens the stack of books, though it doesn't need straightening. You think you know what I am, I want to say to them. You think you know, but you don't. And so they were like, so Samantha, why haven't you been to one of the smut salons before? Do you have any idea what you're getting into? Internally, she's like, you guys invited me. What? How? Hello? Turns out they all will just read to each other. And this is a night that's supposed to inspire them, to awaken our creativity, to open our hearts, to be perverse, Vignette adds. And so they take turns whipping out these different poems and like reading through them and sharing all of this stuff, talking about how hot it was. I love the way the erotic is rendered as a tactile olfactory experience. Every time you read that poem, Bunny, it seems to possess you. They're looking at me with expectation. I'm supposed to say something so great. I murmur, but it rings false. So I add, I love the cinnamon peels. And so then they just have this like whole very like sexually charged reading session, which is very unexpected and odd. They keep repeating, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. Every now and then I think of Ava, her burst of laughter erupting in my head like a dangerous firework. She would not even be able to sit in this room. Her blue and brown eye boring holes into their faces. Lame, her face would say. Lame, lame, lame. What'd you say, Samantha? Nothing. Shut up, I tell Ava, swaying. These are the women in my department. These are my peers. What? She's just like having a whole conversation with herself internally, but calling it Ava. Oh no. How crazy is Samantha? All of the bunnies, finally, they like tell all their different stories, and then they turn over to Samantha and they say, hey, you've got a smutty story, don't you? You should share it with us. She's like, well, I didn't come prepared. Like, I don't have anything to share. They're like, no, come on. Like, you've got something. You've got life experience. You've got something to tell us. And she says, I guess I could tell you about the time I died with Rob Valencia. Rob Valencia was this guy from my high school, a couple of years older than I was. I thought he was the hottest man I ever saw. She goes on to describe what he looks like, describes his voice. I tell them how long I'd loved him from afar. Then I played his wife in the school play. How, because it was a murder mystery, we both got murdered 2/3 of the way through by electrocution. In this scene, we were holding hands, and then he was supposed to plug a lamp into a wall, at which point we convulse and die. I tell them how we got to die together over and over, and how every Monday and Wednesday afternoon for 3 months during rehearsal, and then for the 5 nights of our performance, and once for a final matinee, I died with Robert Valencia. How we would hold hands and shake and tremble and fall together to the stage in a heap. How we'd lie there while everyone pretended to scream and accuse each other of murders. How we'd lie there until the stage got swallowed up in darkness, and then, only then, would we get up. How I hated it when we had to get up. I tell them how erotic it was to be lying next to him on stage and to feel him trying to be so absolutely still and failing. His chest rising and falling beside me, his panting breath on my face, his roasted goat and incense smell filling my lungs. Sometimes we'd fall to the floor in a tangle and our bodies would touch. Sometimes we'd fall a few feet apart from each other and he would be so close but so far away. Both were erotic in different ways. It was like effing, but more intense, cosmic. What the heck? What the heck? So then they're all like, yeah, that's so hot. What? He ends the story by lying to them and telling them that she did actually end up having sex with him at the very end, like after their play, and then they never talked to each other again after that, and how it was this like big metaphorical experience where like it was erotic to die together, but then when they finally did something actually erotic, the relationship died, or the whatever connection between them died, and it's this like whole big thing, I guess. Again, what the heck? And so then they get her like another drink, and we go into chapter 6. So chapter 6, she wakes up a little hungover, understandably, and in her own bed, wearing the same clothes from last night. And she doesn't know how she got home. She doesn't really remember anything. All she remembers is just drinking more and more with the bunnies, until eventually the bunnies pressured her to go outside and catch a bunny. And she thought that they were kidding. And they were like, no, bunnies don't joke about bunnies. You have to go outside to catch one. And she pushes back because she's like, have you guys not seen the news? Like, there was a girl that just got like sexually assaulted. There was a guy that got decapitated, like right off of campus. Are you guys, I'm not going outside. What the fuck are you talking about? And then they're like, no, we're not telling you to go like across campus. Just right outside. Just right outside. And while she's outside trying to find this rabbit, she starts hearing all these noises, and then these shadowy figures, these like 7 shadowy figures that come out from the bushes. And then all of a sudden she hears her mom, or sees her mom approach her and telling her like, you deserve your fate for hanging out with these see you next Tuesdays. But you're not dead yet, but don't worry, I'll see you soon, because Samantha's mom is dead. Not her mom speaking to her. I mean, it is her mom speaking to her, but with Ava's voice. It's very just like trippy. And she doesn't end up dying. She just like passes out. And then her next memory jumps to her sitting in a room with a bunny on her lap, and the lights going on and off, and then the bunnies disappeared, and then she's just like completely out. Oh, awesome. But like I said, she's back at her apartment this morning, remembering all of this stuff, and then she looks up at her windowsill, and there is a bunny on the windowsill. And then it jumps away, and all of a sudden she gets some text messages from the bunnies asking like, did you make it home okay, girl? See you in class tomorrow. Smiling emoji. Class, our first workshop. I'll go to the diner on my way there, where Ava and I always go in the morning, where she drinks her spiked gunpowder tea and draws the world as a series of zombies. Her sky is full of lightning. Her sun has teeth. She gives all the spoiled Warren girls gills, fangs, wings. She sets the frat boys on fire. While she does this, I stare at New England. Sometimes I write. Sometimes I just stare. In chapter 7, she finally arrives to class, and this is their writing like workshop class that they're in together, and it's literally just Samantha and then the 4 bunnies that we met previously. So all of them are here together on this first day. They begin sharing things. All of the bunnies go first. The teacher asks Samantha what her thoughts are, and I think internally, she's not saying any of this out loud, that it's a piece of pretentious shit that says nothing, gives nothing, that I don't understand it, that probably no one does and no one ever will, that not being understood is a privilege I can't afford, that I can't believe this woman got paid to come here, that I think she should apologize to trees. Spend a whole day on her knees in the forest looking up at the trembling aspens and oaks and whatever other trees paper is made of with tears in her languid eyes and say, I'm fucking sorry. I'm sorry that I think I'm so goddamn interesting when it is clear that I am not interesting. Here's what I am. I am a boring tree murderess. But I look at Vignette, at Creepy Doll, at Cupcake, the Duchess, all of them staring at me now with shy smiles. And she gives some like generic platitude. Eventually, we turn to my piece, one of my last completed stories before my block descended. She's having a very, very bad writer's block, which Ava has like given her crap about how Ava thinks that this school is killing Samantha's soul. And ever since she's come here, she like has not been able to write as often. So she reads this out loud. They're silent for a while. The teacher looks at the piece like she doesn't even know where to begin. I brace myself for their usual criticisms, but they're still silent, looking down thoughtfully at the story. It's weird, Cupcake says at last. The first time I read it, I have to confess I was quite put off. It just seems so mean and angry and abrasive and dark, but not like a good dark. And just too invested in its own outsiderness. Exactly. It really keeps the reader at a distance at first, but then on the second read, I sort of like all of that now. The angsty grittiness, the adolescent rawness, it's compelling. More vulnerable than I expected, almost desperate. Sad, Vignette says, but in the best way, Creepy Doll adds. I mean, I still think it could definitely open itself up a little bit more. A lot more. Blah, blah, blah. They're giving like all of this feedback, and they're just like, we just want more, Samantha. We just want more. Does that make sense? Okay. Totally. Sure. In chapter 8, she cannot find Ava. All week, I don't see her. I walk by her house, dark. I pass by the diner, Ava-less. So she goes looking outside and kind of wanders around there too, but still cannot find her. But what she does find are bunnies. So many bunnies. I do not believe my eyes, but there they are. Possibly they were always there, hopping across the green, dashing across my path and disappearing into a cluster of bushes, tripping me up on the winding campus paths like so many soft, heavy stones. Each time I see one, I feel a little lash of fear and excitement in my gut. I recall the soft and heavy magic of the animal in my lap that night, staring into its twitching face, an upstairs window turning on, then off, their little girl voices warming and pet-like in my ears. See how easy, Samantha? We told you. Oh. And then in the middle of these thoughts, Jonah approaches her and they start talking. And he's like, hey, were you just talking to those rabbits? Like, it's cool if you were. Sometimes I talk to things too, and they're just staring at you pretty hard. It's weird. They are? Even though I know that they are. Oh yeah, definitely. Wow, I've never seen anything like that before. It's almost like they want to talk to you or something. He invites her to get a drink. I look at the bunnies. They are still staring at me. I can't right now, Jonah. I'm sorry. Maybe some other time though, okay? I rush off and nearly trip on a shaggy gray one crossing the road. It gets hit by a car that doesn't even brake, and I scream. This is so unsettling. I don't even know what's happening. And then the bunnies say hi, Samantha, to me now whenever I see them on campus. Wave at me from across the green where they sit in their little cluster. Hello, hi, hey, bonjour, Samantha. They attempt to make awkward small talk, ask me how my week is going. Vignette's half smile waxes to 3/4. Cupcake shyly offers me a cupcake, tells me she likes my dress even though I'm not wearing a dress. I'm never wearing a dress, but I say, thanks, I like yours too. Creepy Doll gives me a sharp, glittering black rock. For your altar, bunny. You do have one, right? I don't, but I just smile as if to say, yes, I do. Thanks so much for this. Twice in class, the Duchess reaches out and puts her hand on my wrist, says my name with a voice like a lacy embrace. They do not mention Smut Salon except to say, that was super fun, wasn't it? Yeah, I say, it was. It's only when I say that I realize I'm not lying. It's true. It was fun, I repeat. And there is a lot of writing choices that are happening in the book that I can't really highlight to you, obviously, because like you're hearing this verbally. But where some of the conversations, when they're recalled or remembered, it uses italics instead of like quotations. And then sometimes when it's a whole bunch of wall of conversation back and forth and added comments, it doesn't specify who is saying it. So like earlier, for example, when they were giving her a bunch of feedback on her thing that she wrote, and it was very clearly there was like multiple people talking, it doesn't specify which bunny is speaking. Like it's almost like all of them are saying the same things all at once, and it's very seldom that it gets like broken out and quoted or like with quotation marks of specifically like attributing a quote to a particular person. Most of the time it's just like a generic, this voice is like coming from the void of the bunny girls of like what they're trying to say to Samantha. I hope that makes sense. And so like in this instance too, a lot of those final thoughts of that was fun. Yeah, I say blah, blah, blah is italicized instead of quoted. Just an interesting differentiation. It was the same thing earlier when she was recalling conversations with Ava. Like a lot of those were italicized instead of quotations. And I just don't know if there is a purpose for that. Like if it's like a stylistic choice or if it actually means something. So I guess we'll continue and we'll see, but I just wanted to note that. Chapter 9, still no sign of Ava. And then she thinks about her mother and her father and Halloween and how they used to have, and how her dad would host like the haunted house around Halloween and chase people around, and how her mom was a hairstylist at a beauty salon and she would stay at her mom's salon and write all the time. always wrote really scary, dark things that the teachers would call the mom about and saying, hey, I'm kind of worried about your kid and what she wrote today. In response to the teacher, she says, oh, please, my mother said, Samantha's scared of her own shadow. She just has a vivid imagination. What kid doesn't? Though I knew she was worried. My increasingly horrific and fantastic versions of events. Telling her all manner of lies in answer to questions like, so how was school? Instead of whatever boring thing really happened. Disappearing into my room or into the thin cluster of trees behind our apartment complex with my mermaid notebook. What are you doing in there? My mother would say through the crack in the bedroom door, as if I wasn't in a room in her apartment, but rather a distant place far from her reach where I'd decided to live instead of here. I don't have those hair salon novels anymore. I like to think that they were swallowed up in the falls after she died. In my memory, those years remain my most prolific writing period, although I've never really not written, never not had another world of my own making to escape to, never known how to be in this world without most of my soul dreaming up and living in another until I came here. Oof. I relate to this main character a lot. Good Lord. Until I came here leads her to think about her writing block that she ended up hitting last January. And she was talking to her thesis advisor about it. The lion. The guy who she's feeling super, super awkward about. So I guess that answers that question. So her thesis advisor. Awesome. A little bit of power dynamics there. A little bit concerning if they did have a relationship, but seems pretty much that didn't happen, that might have been a little bit of a red herring, possibly. We were meeting in his office to discuss why I hadn't turned in any new writing. At that point, our friendship had already fallen away. We were still meeting, but only every couple of weeks or so now, and only in his office and only with the door open. I never asked why he no longer emailed me playlists in the middle of the night or asked me to drink scotch with him in the middle of the day, and he never explained. So he probably was trying to do some inappropriate things and she did not feed into it. And so he ended up laying off. Not that it still would have been messed up even if she reciprocated feelings or actions back, but you understand what I'm trying to say here. Obviously I'm not it would have been problematic either way, but it seems like he laid off because she wasn't giving him a reaction or something that he was looking for. I haven't sent him anything since then. I was planning to before summer hit, but then the spring party happened. If things had been awkward between us before, they were impossible after that. And that was the one where she got belligerently drunk and he had to drive her home, I believe is what she's referring to. Theoretically, I should have checked in with him a couple of times over the summer. I definitely should have checked in this week, sent work toward my thesis, updates on my progress, but I haven't reached out and he hasn't either. I can't bear the idea of facing him now. And there's nothing but a bunch of eyes and sad flowers and I don't knows to give him anyway. And then she goes on to reflect about how I was rich once, briefly, after my mother died, when as a morose 13-year-old, I went to live with my nomadic father, following him across the country as he chased one vivid dream of wealth after another that only he could see. I never understood what he did for a living, exactly. Talk shit, my mother once said, drunk. My father called it real estate development. Business opportunities here and abroad, Samantha. Having vision, eyes to see. A chain of resorts in South America, a spa on the Black Sea. He just needed investors. People who saw what he saw. People who believed. Then he found them. A Middle Eastern prince or two, some big thinking Bulgarians, a slew of Texans, and overnight, our life changed. It lasted only a few years, his good fortune. My glimpse into what I imagined to be the bunny life. I forgot that I had ever been poor. It grew normal so quickly, that life. In my memory of this time, I sit looking bored out the window onto the most beautiful, serene stretch of the world left to look at, not even seeing it, wearing a string of pearls that, the first time they were clasped around my neck, felt like strangling, but after a week felt like nothing at all. So you were a bunny, Ava said from behind her cloud of smoke when I told her. I was not. You so were. Her eyes narrowed and she pointed her cigarette at me. It all makes sense now. What does? She stared at me until I looked away. You're too crushed and obsessed about being poor to have always been poor, she said, leaning back in her chair like she should know. And so this leads her to text Ava. Again, still hasn't seen her in a hot minute. Texts Ava, I miss you. I text her, everything okay? I text her, did I do something wrong? And then I text her, whatever I did, I'm sorry. I text her, there's a giant spider in my bathroom, because there probably is, and Ava would always come over and kill her spiders for her. But there's nothing. Then one morning, 6 mornings later, I wake up from a terrible dream in which my hands are full of blood and white feathers. I get a text, 2 texts, 3 texts, 4 texts. I'm so excited I lunge for the phone, but it isn't from Ava. Troll emoji, tulip, open-armed ghost. And then, hey girl, just wanted to let you know we're having a party tonight. And then, if you want to join, and then smiley face. Beside the word tonight, she's put the emoji of a dancing girl in a red dress. That's when I remember tango class tonight. That's where I will find Ava. That's where she will be. I will tell her I am sorry, and I will tell her never leave me again. Oh, I feel like this is not good. I feel like Ava is dead. I feel like if I had to guess in like the Kaylee crazy guessing of the world, I think there is some creepy, culty, bad stuff going on. And I think the bunny that she somehow picked up that night was Ava. And I think maybe she killed her own friend. Is that a crazy assumption to make off the jump in the first 10 chapters? Because I'm very scared that, of course, the first time she goes and talks to the bunnies that Ava disappears. Or does Ava not exist at all? Has Ava been some internal manifestation of like not wanting to give away a part of her old life at all? But she was at the party. But I don't know if anybody actually interacted with Ava at the party or if it was literally just only interacting with Samantha. I feel like there's something afoot and I can't put my finger on it, but I am very unsettled at this moment in time. Ava does eventually show up to the tango class and is acting like everything's totally normal, that nothing happened. Like she hasn't just been blatantly ignoring Samantha for the last 2 weeks. And they have a bit of back and forth about this whole, like, I missed you a lot. Like, were you ignoring me? Did it actually frustrate you that I went to that party? Like, I'm so sorry, Ava. I won't ever do it again. I should have hung out with you. Like, it was just okay. It wasn't even fun. I should have spent it with you. Blah, blah, blah. And Ava is, like, literally, like, grabbing Samantha's face. And she's like, I don't care what you do. I am a grown woman. I have my own devices. I can do my own thing. I don't care that you have other friends. I don't care what you do or where you go. That makes Samantha cry. And that would make me cry as well. There's a difference of saying like, hey, I support you being your own person and having a good time. And then also saying, I don't care what you do and where you are and what you're doing. Like, I don't care about you versus I support you doing whatever. That makes sense. Just a totally different vibe. If somebody said that they didn't care about me or what I was doing, I think I would cry. Like somebody that I was friends with, you know what I mean? Like, you should be invested. You should give a shit about me. What do you mean you don't care about me? I too would burst into tears, so there's no judgment coming from me on that one. So after Ava says this, she leaves the tango class. She like completely leaves it because she is just crying too much. I'm walking away, stumbling, then running, even though the night scares me, even though I hear her calling my name as I walk off into the night. I hear her calling me back, but I don't turn around. I can walk away into the night alone, without her, with very quick steps, with galloping steps. I feel my phone buzz in my pocket. I pull it out thinking it's her. She's saying, come back. She's saying she didn't mean it. Instead, on the screen is a text from a number I vaguely recognize, words flanked by tulips and open-armed ghosts. You coming tonight? Oh no, this is creepy. This is really interesting, but I also feel like nothing has happened. You know what I mean? And we're about 30-ish, almost nearly 30-ish% of the way through the book. And I feel like nothing has really happened. So maybe it'll pick up here in a minute. And so of course she ends up going and spending time with the bunnies because she's feeling bad and sad and left out and not getting along with her friend, that it's like, she's gonna try to find comfort where she can, right? And like find that, like, I don't know, belonging. She goes to this party. She's not dressed appropriately though, because it's a pastel party or something, and her hair's not done. So the girls bring her upstairs to get her dressed and do her hair in this super cute way we saw on Pinterest that would look great on your face. So as they're doing all of this, they're also asking her questions, right? Like, how was your prom? She's like, oh, well, yeah, I went with my friend Alice. And they're like, oh, I bet that Rob guy that you told us the story about the other day, I bet he would have asked you to go to prom, but he was probably intimidated. He's probably intimidated like we were last year. It's like, you were intimidated? I think about last year, them looking at me from opposite shores of the room during functions, all of us waiting outside the cave and before workshop for the lion to come and unlock the door. They would fall silent when I approached, looking up at me. I was so tall, in my jeans and a t-shirt featuring some jaw-bearing animal. If they thought I was wearing that to intimidate them, they were not wrong. Sometimes one of them, usually Cupcake or Creepy Doll, would say something to me while Duchess and Vignette exchanged looks. I like your bag, Samantha, Creepy Doll might say. Where did you get it? I didn't know how to take that. How could you possibly like my bag? I like your earrings, Cupcake might say, even if I wasn't wearing earrings. What was I supposed to say? So I just stared at her. What'd you do last night, Samantha? Was this a trick question? Cool, they'd say to whatever platitude I mumbled in reply, and then they'd all nod and look at one another. Totally, Creepy Doll says now. We still are a little bit. You're just so... Anyway, he's probably been fantasizing about you all these years. He totally has. That's a given. Maybe he's dead now because of you. Can you imagine? He's not dead, Kira. Stop trying to make everything into one of your ghost stories. He's probably just utterly heartbroken because his life is ruined. But I'll bet if he were right here, right now, he'd be like, Samantha, oh my God, darling Samantha, dance with me. Have my babies, please. She turns my screaming head around so that I'm facing the mirror again. In it is a woman I do not recognize. Her bangs have been pinned back. Her hair is the hair of queens from fantasy lands. There are tears in her eyes from the pain. Oh my God, amazing, Cupcake says with a sharp intake of breath. I'm amazing. What do you think? She isn't asking me. She's asking Creepy Doll. Creepy Doll looks at me, her tousled up head tilted to one side. I think that if Rob Valencia were here right now, he would die, especially if you wear this. She hands me a dress patterned all over with little beheaded girls in blonde beehive hairdos, their smiling heads floating next to their decapitated bodies. Oh, what the hell does that mean? After they get her ready and cuties up and whatnot, they bring her downstairs, and there are 4 men, I guess, that are down there. They're all wearing dark blue suits. They're staring at my hair like it's a volcano that could erupt at any moment. And then the bunnies disappear upstairs, leave her alone in this room with these 4 men, and they start complimenting her like crazy and awkward and very oddly phrased. And then suddenly I hear screams from above. Jesus, what was that? Samantha, Beowulf says, tell us about you, Samantha. Samantha, tell us everything, Samantha. Samantha, we want to listen. Samantha, says Blake, taking my hands in his hands. We're dying to know. He really does look like he's dying. Maybe he's drunk. From upstairs, I hear more screams. Do you guys hear that? They look at one another. Genuine confusion troubles their brows. Here? That's screaming. Your beauty is like screaming, Samantha, says Beowulf, touching my face. He strokes it with a gloved hand like my skin is the most delicate pet. The lights go off, then on, a rustling, a thud, then silence, the sound of heeled footsteps clambering down the stairs. Beowulf's hand drops and Blake crushes his sippy cup in his fist. Hello? A sippy cup? What the fuck? They emerge from the side door and swarm into the living room like a plague of hair and pastels. Hey girl, they say. They look vaguely disheveled. Creepy Doll's cat ears are askew on her head, and she's clutching Cupcake's arm like she's lost in the woods, except this isn't the woods, it's her own living room. Cupcake's glove has a little dark blotch on it. Her skin has a pink glow as though she has just been masturbating. Where were you guys? Vignette grabs a handful of chips, shoves them into her mouth, and then crunches, stares at me with her lovely fuck you eyes. Surprise, she says. We can't tell you, Cupcake explains like she's her translator. I thought I heard screams. That was me, Creepy Doll says. Sometimes I scream. It's a sort of disorder. And so Samantha, she's like, hey, so what's going on? Hey, for real, what's going on? Just answer the door, Samantha. Trust us this time, okay? Her face says it's about time you trusted us. Her face says that has been a problem thus far. Me, my lack of trust. So I open the door. Samantha Heather Mackey, he says. My heart explodes. I'd scream, but I've lost my voice. Run, but my legs are all swimmy. He's the same. Tall and broad in his dark blue suit. Is it the same suit he was wearing that night? The night I didn't even stay for 4 songs, watched him dance with Alyssa Fisher while I ate a hard roll 2 tables away with Alice? The man whose name I'd write in a notebook again and again and again with loopy hope? Rob Valencia. Samantha Heather Mackey, he says again. Hello. What the hell? Okay, so for that too, just so you're kind of aware of what's going on of what she was referencing, it was prom. He took a different girl to prom. It wasn't that he was intimidated by, well, maybe he was intimidated and he took a different lady. And so she was reflecting on being at prom with her friend Alice and then leaving and whatnot. But now he's here and he looks at Duchess We called him, she says, looking at him and nodding. We hope you're not mad, Samantha. We called him, and when he found out you were going to be here, he came right over, didn't you? Rob's nodding now, too. He takes my hand in his, and I notice he's also wearing black leather gloves. This is so weird. I'm in town on business, Rob says. I'm a businessman now, Samantha. I travel, and I'm very successful. Serendipitous, the Duchess sighs, looking at me. Isn't it? Rob nods. I'll leave you two alone, the Duchess whispers, patting us both on the back, patting my shoulder a little. Then she walks away. Rob Valencia, squeezing my hand in the doorway. Samantha, I would like to come in, he says. Will you let me in, Samantha? Okay. So they go and sit down and they're talking, and she is blown away by this, that he would be here and talking and like giving her the time of day, right? Like this was just a crust that she had for so long. And she just cannot believe it. And so she says it as much, right? Again and again. She's like, I can't believe you're here. It surprises you, he says, grinning. Yeah, I say, swaying a little from the bunny punch. Very much, I can't believe it. Believe, Samantha, he says. Please, it makes sex faster. Sex faster? He puts a leather finger to my lips. Shh, he says. Shh, Samantha. I must say something. There is something missing from my life that has been missing since that night 7 years ago when I went to the dance with that slut whose name I do not even remember because she is inconsequential to me. Oh, do you know, Samantha, I do not even masturbate to the memory of fucking her in the mermaid limo? What? Dying with you, Samantha. 3 months of rehearsal, 5 nights of performance, 1 matinee. It remains the most erotic time of my life. Oh, so he's like just completely reenacting and repeating the things that she told the bunnies. He goes on, he's like, yes, in fact, the whole time I was dancing with Alyssa whatever's unmagical arms, the whole time I was fucking other women in various venues, but mostly in my car, I was still thinking this is not at all erotic. And how much infinitely better, how much infinitely hotter it would be to die by electrocution with Samantha Heather Mackey. Because we died like we were fucking, didn't we, Samantha? Samantha, I found your tree-like height erotic, and I enjoyed your bleak dress sense more than I can say. All day I wanted to tongue the little skull pin you wore on your boob. And yet I did not. You intimidated me because you were so... What? I whisper. Formidable. Angry. Scary angry. You refused to turn that frown upside down. You scared us all year, Samantha Heather Mackey, but we knew the truth too. That you were just a lonely girl. That you were a sad girl. He reaches up and holds my face lightly, tenderly between his gloved hands, gazes at me so tenderly with his eyes of smoke, Rob Valencia's eyes of smoke. Weren't you, Samantha? I cry a little. Probably it's just the punch. I cry into Rob Valencia's boulder-like shoulder, which smells like it did 7 years ago when he was lying beside me on the sawdusty stage. His smell of 17-year-old boy sweat, roasted animal, church incense, and something else now too, like a sort of muffin mix. Samantha, he says, there is no need for all the eye water. What? Ultimately, we find you vulnerable and desperate, but compellingly so. Oh my God. Ultimately, we find you vulnerable and desperate, but compellingly so, is crazy. That's going to be my new Instagram bio. That's crazy. The Duchess, who suddenly appears in the periphery, slides a clear box toward him on the table. There's a flower inside, a corsage. It looks like an orchid, white and shimmery with a little purple mouth full of pale pink veins. He opens it, holds the flower in his palm like a baby bird. He looks down at it hungrily. For a second, I think he's going to eat it. Then the Duchess comes by, pats on his massive shoulder, and he takes my hand, fastens the flower onto my wrist. The music changes to a song I know so well, though I have forgotten the name. Samantha, he says, standing. Will you dance with us? Oh. And so she's dancing on the, in this living room thing with this guy, and again, she's still not believing this, and she's thinking of Ava and like what Ava is doing in this moment and how she feels bad for not being with her, and she's still kind of hurt about what she said, and she's looking around, and Cupcake is dancing with a guy who is chewing on her spaghetti strap. She looks over at Creepy Doll, and the guy that Creepy Doll is dancing with is chewing on her hair. Okay. When I turn to look at Duchess, her head is resting against Beowulf's shoulder. I see Beowulf is gnawing on her pearls. The Duchess appears oblivious. Vignette is sitting in the window seat in the corner like a drunk music box ballerina drinking a beer while her boy lies in her lap, chewing on her crinoline. Oh, what is that word? I've never heard of any of these words that are used in this book. I'm learning so many new words. Please don't be something inappropriate. A structured petticoat or underskirt designed to add volume and shape to skirts and dresses. Okay. Then I feel it. The mouth at my wrist. Rob Valencia is hunched over my hand, his teeth full of orchid. For a moment, he looks at me like a dog caught eating a shoe, and then he starts up again. And like telling him to stop, and eventually like he doesn't, and so she slaps him across the face. Harder than I wanted to. The sound is louder than I expected. A sharp crack. The music stops. Everyone stops dancing and looks at me. Rob stares at me, shocked. He touches his cheek with his gloved hand. His eyes cloud. His nose starts to twitch. His mouth, full of chewed up bits of flour, opens to say, "Look, I'm sorry." I cut in. "I didn't mean..." "Abrasive," he says, stroking his cheek. Angry. Invested in her own outsiderness. Gritty. Oh, so gritty. What? What are you talking about? Which are all quotes, right, of what the bunnies described her writing as earlier. Then his eyes suddenly fill with hate. "You think you're better than us, Samantha? Well, you're fucking not." "What?" He takes my face between his hands and hisses, spitting flowers and foam from his mouth. "We tried to braid your hair. You didn't let us braid it. We invited you to things and you wouldn't come. We asked you to come out for bento boxes, and you said, no, I'm too busy and important, and I'm better than you are for bento boxes. But you don't remember. All you remember is Samantha Heather Mackey. Samantha Heather Mackey is the victim. Samantha Heather Mackey is pain. Samantha Heather Mackey's heart is on fire with all the feelings she thinks only she can feel. The burnt, sugary smell is overwhelming now. I think of a squid releasing ink. I try to release myself from his grip, and that's when he starts screaming. His mouth opens and screams, looking right at me like I'm the most horrifying thing he's ever seen. Then all the men start screaming. Just stand there shrieking at the ceiling. The noise is deafening. I cover my ears with my hands, watch as the bunnies attempt to shh them to no end. They pull Rob... Sorry, I am ending up having to read all of this because this is crazy. They pull Rob away and try to lead him to the door. Not the front door, but the door that leads to the attic. But he's too worked up to go, shaking his head, screaming his head off. Even though my ears are covered, I can hear every word. Samantha Heather Mackey thinks her stories are so fucking great. Samantha Heather Mackey doesn't say it, but she thinks she's too good for the whole fucking world. Samantha Heather Mackey acts poor, but why then does she behave like a princess? Samantha Heather Mackey slept with her professor, sucked him off for preferential treatment. There's no way in hell Samantha Heather Mackey can be that tall. She wears stilts. Samantha Heather Mackey wears stilts so she can look down on us. Oh ho ho, she loves every fucking second of that. Samantha Heather Mackey thinks we have everything under the sun, that we sleep on a bed of gold, and meanwhile she sleeps on a bed of dirt, that she has nothing, and she thinks that makes her deep. It doesn't make you deep, Samantha Heather Mackey. It makes you rumpled, and it makes you smell of old potatoes. Samantha Heather Mackey thinks that she understands everything, but she fails to understand the depths of the human heart. She fails to understand the depths of our heart, our heart, our heart, our heart. We've read Jane Eyre too, you cunt, and we've read The Waves, and when we read it, you know, we wept for minutes. Then he starts weeping. I think, go now, but in the spinning, swaying room, I find I can't move. I am transfixed by Rob Valencia's rage, his hissing, spitting rage, his tears, by the sight of the bunnies gently shushing him, the terrible, suffocating smell of muffins on fire. It all feels like a terrible play. Maybe it will end with Rob Valencia and me twitching on the floor. I almost want to laugh. A hysterical laugh comes out of me like a cough. That's when Rob Valencia's head explodes. Literally explodes. Blood and brains all over me, the walls, blood all over the bunnies and their whimpering boys, bits of skull falling to the hardwood floor like hail. His headless, suited body remains standing before me, and then it collapses to the floor. I hear my own screaming stretching my face. Something drops at my feet. An ear. Rob Valencia's ear. I fall to the earth. I fall and fall and fall. It's a long way down to the blood and skull splattered floor. And in the background, the song that was so familiar is still playing. The song my 17-year-old heart knows so well, yet the name escaped me, becomes one I finally recognize as Slave to Love. So she wakes up in a bed that is not her own. Presumably, she's still in the bunny's house. And I say presumably because she wakes up and there is a bunny at the end of her bed. It is Kira. Which one's Kira? I don't remember. Hopefully I have the names up on the screen so you know who that is. Yeah, so she's at the end of the bed. She's comforting her. She's like, hey, are you okay? yeah, we're going to go to class together, okay? Here, take these pills. These will make you feel better. And I got a dress for you because your other dress was... And Samantha's like, yeah, but last night, like, Rob Valencia's head exploded. Kira slaps the shit out of Samantha and she says, you think that's what you saw? Things aren't always what they seem, are they? I look at her cat ears. These are cat ears. This is from a Halloween costume that the bunnies put on her head like 2 Halloweens ago or something, and she's just never taken them off. So she has these like cat ears permanently affixed to her head. And so yeah, they're going to take a car. They're going to take a safe ride, which is like when you don't feel safe for walking, you call that for their campus, and then they'll drive you from your house to class. And so they're going to take that safe ride together and go to class. As she leaves the room to let Samantha, get dressed and clean up a little bit, she's like, oh yeah, and hey, when you take those pills, I just want to let you know, they'll make you sensitive to light. What could that be? What the hell does that mean? And of course, when she goes downstairs, it's all clean. Like, right, the living room is completely spotless, as if there was no crazy, violent explosions that happened there. And on the way to class, her and Kira have like a little bit of back and forth about a reading, and like, nobody does the readings, Bunny. Of course not. And she's like, well, yeah, but the teacher always calls on me. Like, I need to have something. And she's like, no, don't worry. If the teacher calls you, we'll support you. We've got your back, Bunny. So they're starting to call Samantha Bunny. She is officially like, I don't think she's aware of it yet. She is a part of this cult. She has been taken in by these ladies. And along the way, hearing all this stuff, feeling a little uncomfortable with everything going on, she's looking out the window, and out the window, she sees Ava. I see Ava standing by the road under a tree watching this van go by. Ava, stop the car, I shout, but it comes out as a whisper. Kira and the driver don't even hear me. I check my phone to see if she texted. She hasn't texted. I send her a single question mark like an SOS. In class, everything's going fine. They're all talking back and forth, doing their readings, and then it shifts to talking about the homework that they had, the book that they were supposed to read. So the teacher, as predicted, calls Samantha out directly and says, hey, what did you think of this? I look down at the book cover, which features an art house photo of a girl who looks pleased that her hair is on fire. I flip through and find nothing but blocks of text, unpunctuated. I look back up at the teacher who's looking at me with the certain knowledge that I did not do the reading. Briefly, I picture her head exploding. I haven't actually, I say softly. You were telling me earlier how you thought this book gestured toward a complex paradigm of female desires. The girl named Eleanor interjects, not looking at me. Eleanor being the Duchess. That it languishes the circumnavigation of the hermeneutical circle. And I think Samantha's piece is clearly talking about that piece. You must have taken inspiration from it. The teacher nods. Eleanor, that's very true. Samantha, she says, turning her grand head toward me. I'm very impressed by your piece this week. You've been doing a lot of emotional growth lately. That's clear. They all nod at me and smile. I stare at the teacher through my heart-shaped frames because the tint of the shades, she appears to be dark pink. They all do. Clear, I nod. I'm so glad. I bite into my mini cupcake Caroline offered me at the start of class. For the hangover, she said, Charlotte offering up the ornate confection and the cupped bowl of her small pink hands. Interesting. And so after class, they all go to this little coffee shop, cafe thing, and they're hanging out. And they are really, really trying to convince her that his head did not explode. He definitely did not explode. That's just what you think you saw. Okay, so what did I see? And then they change the topic and they're like, Samantha, may I just tell you, I've always loved your work. And they distract her with flattery? What was I going to say? She's like, yeah, your grittiness, your salt of the earthness, all that brooding, dark night of the soul melodrama. It's just wonderful. I mean, jarring at times, don't get me wrong, over the top. Willfully provocative, but the talent is undeniable and your voice adds so much to the collective. Oh. And so they're like, yeah, so that's why we're so sad to hear that you have like a writer's block going on. There's no shame in it. You're an artist. We all are. Oh no, what is this? And so they go on to tell her like, hey, yeah, this writing block thing you have, like, that's such a shame. You should let us help you. Let's do this exercise to try to get you out of this block that you have. It's a sort of collaboration. Oh, like a novel or a short story? No, not a novel, Bunny. A hybrid. A hybrid, so combining genres? Samantha, we're at Warren, the most experimental, groundbreaking writing school in the country. This goes way beyond genre. It subverts the whole concept of genre and gender narratives and the patriarchy of language, not to mention the whole writing medium. Yeah, it basically fucks the writing medium, Samantha, which is dead anyway, you know? Exactly. This is about the body performing the body performing in all of its nuanced viscerality. The body fucking, Victoria adds. Eleanor gives her a dark look, and then she looks at me with a smile like glass breaking. They're waiting, I see, for a response from me. Great. It all sounds so great. I'm sorry, what is it that you're doing? Exactly? Samantha, we're female artists, right? Right? So do you really want to be the passenger in someone else's narrative? They all look at me, waiting. There is a right answer to this question. Think. No? Smiles break over their faces like golden sunshine through frowny clouds. Of course you don't. You want to be empowered. You want creative agency. You want agency, period. Control. Over your art, over your life, Bunny. All aspects of your life. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, even. You want to fuck and not be fucked, Victoria says. Samantha, Eleanor intones, is this making sense? What is happening? I stare at all of them through Kira's pink heart-shaped glasses. This is how she must see the world all the time. I look at their dark pink faces, so suddenly grave. I should call the police. I should run to Mexico. Totally. Wonderful, because we think you're ready. Ready? To join us. For what? What else? Workshop. But we just had workshop, I say. They look at each other. We should just show her, one of them says. Victoria, I think, through a mouth of mini fries. I don't know, guys, Kira says. She's already had a pretty rough day. She pats my hand. Haven't you, Bunny? I look down at my phone. No response from Ava. I feel my heart sink deeper into pink waters where the haze was starting to clear. It's now grown thick. I'm deep in the eye of the smiling watermelon. Show me, I say. Oh, no. Oh, no. So in chapter 14, they go to Kira's attic, a dollhouse room you have to climb a winding staircase to reach, a steepled ceiling covered in a cloudy sky mural they tell me they painted together last year. The clouds swirly and white like a child's idea of heaven, the blue of the sky shot through with a big bright arch of 5-color rainbow. I observe the rainbow through the eye holes of the rabbit mask they've just slipped over my face. Why a mask, I asked. Trust us, they said. I noticed the curtains on the dormer windows are charred at the bottom like they've been through multiple fires. In the corner of the room, I see a fire extinguisher. In another corner, an axe? An axe? What's... You'll see, Bunny. You'll see, they say, leading me by the hand to the white wicker chair in the corner. Just sit here for now, okay? Oh, I don't like this at all. Oh, I don't like this at all. So they say, you should just chill here for now, Bunny. Here, take this. This is for if you freak out. Placing a bucket beside me. I mean, I doubt you will, given all you've seen, your life experience. And so then they're all like, hey, just don't freak out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Girl, that's gonna make me freak out more. What are you talking about? They give her more pills that look like Tic Tacs, and they just keep telling her to trust them. I am so scared. Meanwhile, down below, they all look like they're getting ready for some sort of party. Eleanor is working on her bloody toy bride installation. Victoria's crouched over a sound system. Kira is sharpening the axe with a small black stone, glaring at Caroline, who is sitting on the floor talking softly to a red velvet box. Sometimes I don't understand why we have to keep doing workshop at my place, Kira whispers to her axe. Bunny, Caroline says, her arms wrapped around the box. Are you going to make us go through this again? We've already said, 1, your aunt is a firewoman. 2, you have an attic. And also, this apartment has energy mine doesn't because it's old. I wish mine had this energy, Eleanor says. She pets Kira's shoulder, her lace bell sleeve fanning out like an egret's wing. She looks around the blue room, smiling like it's all too beautiful. Did you put the suit in the hallway, Bunny? Eleanor asks. Her voice has a weird echo in my brain. Hallway, way, bunny, nee. No? Kira says, shaking her head slowly 1,000 times. Was I supposed to? Well, last time he came out naked. He freaked Caroline out, remember? Who came out naked? It wasn't that he was naked. It's that he was oozy. It was the ooze. Ooze is hot. I say more ooze. Girl, what the hell? And then they all say I love you to each other. Now they gather around the box. Beside the bride in her bloody book, Caroline removes the fabric to reveal a bunny, twitching his nose and flopping his ears in a cute way. And then they all say goodbye to the bunny and wave at it like pretty sadly. And she starts waving too, even though she doesn't understand why. And so then they all start chanting. They basically put this bunny in the middle of the room. The light goes out, a wind comes, the curtains catch fire, the bunny explodes. And then all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, right? So Samantha's screaming. She's looking up. She gets slapped in the face to stop screaming by Kira. And then she looks at all of them and they're all covered in like blood and like grossness from this rabbit exploding. But then everybody's like waiting with bated breath. Like you can just feel like a tension in the air. And then all of a sudden there's a knocking at the door. And so then they're like, fine, I'll get it. And they open the door and it is a guy that they introduce as Odysseus. He's wearing a dark blue suit and pale blue shirt, the same shade as his eyes. I noticed the black leather gloves on his hands. My mouth makes a gasping sound. He looks at her and then at the rest of us with his wide blue, uncomprehending eyes. He opens his botched mouth and then he lets out a terrible scream. They cover their ears. I want to cover mine, but I can't find my hands. So I just sit there. So then Victoria grabs the guy, pulls him into another room with her axe in hand. There's more screaming behind it, but it's like very obvious that she's killing him. Don't worry, Bunny, they tell me, patting all my hands, which they found so easily. First draft's part of the process. Sometimes you have to kill your darlings, you know? In fact, that's what we call them, darlings. Oh no. So Victoria comes out and she's like, I think I fucked up. What do you mean you fucked up? Kira asks. A creature comes running out of the bedroom howling. An animal man, furry-skinned, floppy-eared, still wearing his dark blue suit. There's an axe stuck deep in the furry shoulder, blood gushing terribly from the cleaved flesh. I watch him run, shrieking past the rainbow, under which I am still screaming. And yet all that comes tumbling from my mouth is laughter. Laughter like a laughing brook, my waters sparkling in the sun. And so then Victoria grabs a second axe and begins chasing the guy, animal creature thing, and kills it. And she's like, guys, I can't seriously be the one that does this all the time. It's giving me nightmares. And they're like, but you're so good at it. You're so brave. I love you. And then they all say, I love you to Victoria. 3 bunny explosions later, in which the axe gets bloodier and bloodier, the air becoming thick with the scent of dead bunny and boy. Odysseus the fourth is before us. Kira pats my back, the handle of the bloodied axe still in her little fist. Welcome to workshop, Bunny. And then we begin part 2, which I'm going to have to do tomorrow. This is already a lot darker and crazier than I thought this would be. I'm not really sure what exactly I was expecting, but it wasn't any of this. So she's just like straight up a part of this. This really is like a magical thing. I didn't know if it would be actual magic stuff going on or if it would just be, I guess, like allusions to magic, or I don't know what I was expecting. I don't think I was expecting turning bunnies into boys, though. Like literal rabbits into men. Very fascinated by this. So I'm assuming that that's Rob Valencia, right? Because he was also in a blue suit that they summoned him. That wasn't the real him. Because they also made a mention about how they like stalked her Instagram and like found pictures of him on there. And they were like, sorry, I hope you don't think it's creepy. And internally she was like, that's creepy as hell. But yeah, so they probably internet stalked him, got all that information about him, and then like summoned him based off of all of the story that she told them and the pictures on Instagram. But then eventually they all just start screaming and have to be killed, like taken out back. So how long does the magic last? Is that why they have to wear gloves? Because their hands are freaky? Is that why they're covered in like full suits and stuff? Because they're just like little freaky things that can't be like fully summoned and turned into men? Are they part like animal creature? Are they like furry under all of this? I don't know. This is not what I was expecting. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow with part 2. I'm kind of excited. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea where we're going. Okay, I finished reading the book. This is a lot. I feel a lot. I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to spoil anything inadvertently. So this is a note that I wrote going into part 2. I wrote a couple of notes for some of these earlier chapters, so I'll be looking down quite a bit, referencing these. But going into part 2, I think this is a good chance to recap some things, just to kind of touch base, make sure we're all tracking what's going on. So the bunnies, right, being this cultish-y girl group, friend group rather, has befriended Samantha, and we literally can't tell if there is magic or, again, culty stuff. There's a weird juxtaposition of the violence that they are, I guess, committing and, like, you know what I mean, being covered in blood and stuff and not reacting, of that and the gore and, like, the vulgarness of them paired with this, like, innocence and Disney songs, and one's literally a cupcake and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting clash there. One of the other, like, comparisons is a lot of what they end up referencing in school and the way that they congratulate each other. I haven't really read any quotes that would indicate so you're just going to have to trust me on this. There's this, like, go girl feminist thing happening, but obviously these bunnies are obsessed with men. They're creating men. And then also I wanted to make a note about them when they, like, create these drafts, these boys. It's like inspired by literature. They're basing it off of their favorite book characters or, like, poets or authors and whoever, just art, right? They're, like, combining all of these different art pieces and creating this man thing. And it's interesting terminology to call it drafts when, like, that's their whole writing thing. And again, we'll talk about that more in a second, but it's an interesting thing to call them drafts for now. Also, just touching base again, Samantha, she's super lonely. She wants to belong, not sure who she is. She is a mirror of those around her. When she's with Bunny, she loves the bunnies. When she's with Ava, she hates the bunnies and she only likes Ava. And pretty much just anytime she's in a room, it just seems like she very, like, goes chameleon, you know, and just kind of matches with whatever she needs to do to be accepted and liked and whatnot, which is a shame, but it's a thing that happens. And then Ava, definitely some weird tension, weird relationship between these two. Definitely feel like they're in love a little bit. I feel like there's some things, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes. So part 2, chapter 15, Sam is gone. In the sense that she has been completely and utterly absorbed by the bunnies, like fully saying we. And everybody is a bunny and calling each other bunny. And you literally, for this entire chapter, like, cannot tell who is who, because all of them are bunny, right? The only reason that we can tell a difference is because it'll describe like a writing style or a dress, or you can tell the way that they talk specifically of, like, what person that it is. But yeah, she is, like, in it. She has fully drank the Kool-Aid to the point that there is a conversation that they have, and I had to read this to you because this is, like, next level cringy, crazy, weird. So they're at this coffee shop having this discussion back and forth. Doesn't really matter. What happens is one of them reacts and says, "Oh, Bunny, you're so funny." We say, "Bunny is so funny," and we laugh because it's true. She is so funny. We laugh and we laugh and we laugh, and there is a waiter who comes and asks us why we're laughing. "Is everything okay?" He asks in this so concerned voice that is even funnier, so we laugh more. Our laughter makes him uncomfortable because he doesn't get it. He's not in on the joke, even though he wants to be. You can tell by his wanting face, which is even funnier to us. We laugh even harder. We grip our stomachs so hard we can't breathe. We almost die right there in our mini foods. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, so funny. We probably burn at least 1,000 calories laughing because it's so, so funny. This joke we are in on about Bunny being funny, being a funny bunny. Hello? Okay, yeah, so she is in it. They have all merged into this weird collective bunny term. I don't know. What I do know is these crazy little ladies just continue making these beast boys, right? These draft things that they're making, and they make so many, and only some of them are a success, right? The ones that don't work out for us for a number of reasons, we let go. Really, it's the best thing for them. The ones who bite, the ones who scream, usually get the axe, unless Bunny is too tired to put on her apron. Then they go in the basement for a while until Bunny feels like taking a long, long drive. Then we lead them out back at a very dark hour. Okay, hello? So they're just creating these men, killing them or just setting them free across town. And I would just like to say, reminder to everybody, there's some crazy violence and whatnot happening in town. Do you think it's correlated to these beast things that they're creating and releasing into the world? I don't know, but this opens a can of worms of them having like an ethical discussion about killing them. Like, is it ethical to leave them there if they're dangerous, if they have nowhere to go? And they say, no, don't be upset, Bunny. We think of it as art meets life, Bunny. We're putting art into the world. It's like a living interactive installation, you know? But I mean, if you'd rather kill them, you go right ahead, Bunny. No, that's okay. What the hell? Okay, so, and I know I keep saying that. Also, just want to acknowledge I did some light editing of like the yesterday's video. Holy shit, dude. What in the heck? You can tell that's like one of my favorite phrases right now. The other one that I say all the time is, what the frick? Be like, what the frick? What the frick? Okay, sorry, I need to focus. So yes, discussion on ethics. I mean, I guess it's really undecided. They're like, I mean, they're not really men, it's art. And then they have a whole thing of like, well, if we are creating men, aren't we kind of like interfering with God? Like, isn't that kind of like God's whole deal? Like, that's kind of a weird way to look at this also, if we're like creating life. I don't know. And so then they just move on from it because it's too hard of a discussion. And oh, how I wish that worked in real life. But the point, though, of all of this, to bring this up to you, is all of these creation things are failing, right? There's something wrong with them, or one of them very vulgarly says she doesn't care about the hands because anytime they make these, the hands are always messed up. That's why they're always wearing gloves. But she's like, I don't even give a shit about the hands. I just want it to have a cock. Okay. Like a working one. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, my bad. So they're having issues with that. And so the girls offer to Bunny, the lead one, assumably, don't look at me like that, and are like, well, hey, so obviously this isn't working. What if we try a different animal? Like, does it have to be a bunny? Can it only be a bunny that we can turn into a draft? Or can it be anything? And this really upsets her because she's like, Bunny, why wouldn't we use a bunny to make bunnies? Okay. I feel like I'm on drugs. I feel like I'm not speaking English. I feel like none of this makes any sense. But to feel better after this confrontation, after this back and forth, because being asked about other animals being drafts really upsets Bunny. Really, really upsets her. So they decide to go out to get ice cream to feel better. They're going to go and get some little desserts and whatnot. So they go out there, they go to a place where one of the drafts actually works. And he like just is out in the world, hanging out, doing things. It's kind of weird, kind of cool. Okay, awesome. They go and walk home, mentioning how it's getting a little sketchy, right? They live in Sketchville or whatever they referred to it as earlier. All of a sudden, Bunny gets separated from the bunnies. And they're calling Bunny, Bunny, but Bunny can't respond because Bunny has a fish-netted hand over her mouth. What? She got grabbed, pulled into an alley, somebody's holding her and whispers in her ear, don't make a noise. Luckily, this isn't actually super, super sketchy because turns out it's Ava, right? Her friend that's been missing for freaking ever. But Samantha, who happens to be the particular bunny that got pulled into this alley, has no idea who Ava is. Doesn't recognize her. She's like, I don't know why this person is calling me Smacky. I don't even know who this person is, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're having this entire back and forth, and it takes her a minute. But finally, she looks at Ava's face long enough, and she's like, oh, Ava. Oh, my God. And Ava says, yeah, you've been gone for 2 months. Are you okay? Like, I didn't even know if you were alive. I was going to call the police. I was super, super worried about you. You literally just up and vanished for 2 months. She had no idea. No concept of time. Nothing. And Ava is like, you are in a cult. You are in a cult. You need to leave. I don't think you understand what's happening to you right now. Like, we need to get you home. You're not doing hot right now. Ava takes her to a diner so that they can talk and catch up and get out of the weather. So they're in there having their back and forth, and Samantha slowly begins stopping using the word we. That was such a horrible sentence. But she, like, again, she's snapped out of the trance. And so the, like, more time passes, the more that she's becoming herself again. And she starts saying I instead of we. And she's, like, referring to actual names and not just saying bunny. And so Ava goes on to tell Samantha, you know, she's like, hey, I searched for you for so long. I did absolutely everything, went all these places, befriended these people, went through your school just yelling your name in every classroom I could possibly go into. I could never find you. She's like, that's so weird. I was just with the bunnies. She's like, yeah, I know you're with the bunnies. I saw you multiple times and you just didn't recognize me. Like, you didn't even respond to your own name when I called for you. Like, it's, again, very, very concerning that you were with them. So then, you know, Samantha goes and tells her about her experience being with the girls over the last 2 months, apparently. And it was just a lot of her, I don't know, just talking to the drafts that they were creating. There was a point where she got a little too interested. And so she would look at their, like, hands and, like, lift up their gloves and look under it. And then one of them bit her because of that. So she had to go to the hospital. I don't know. And then some of them she would talk to, and then they would end up exploding because she was trying to get to the bottom of it all. I don't know. There's a lot of chaos, honestly. This book turns into chaos, and then it turns into cheesy, and then goes back to interesting chaos, and then ends really cheesy. That's how I feel about the book, by the way. That was my reading experience in the last 24 hours. We're still in the interesting part. I'll let you know when we start to shift, and I go, oh, we lost the momentum, you know, we lost the plot. But yeah, so she's passed this time in the hospital and hanging out with all these different drafts and just crazy, right? So they have their back and forth. All of a sudden, Samantha's phone starts ringing and Ava's like, hey, you should answer it. It's probably the bunnies. And if you don't answer, they'll send me to bunny jail, and makes a couple jokes. Okay, fine. She's like about to pick up, and then all of a sudden 2 of the bunnies, Kira and Caroline, come into the diner, and they're like, oh my god, we thought we lost you, we missed you so much, bunny, how are you doing, blah 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 blah. Everybody's freaking out over everything. And they look up and they see Ava, so they're like, why didn't you introduce us? And Sam kind of clams up, and they kind of change the topic a little bit, and then they're just like, okay, well, whatever, I guess, stop being weird about it, we're so happy you're safe. What happened to you? How did we get separated? She again, like, can't speak. And so Ava steps in and responds on her behalf and goes on to say she almost got gored by this giant wolf boy. What? Oh my God, Samantha, is this true? It was terrible, Ava says, kicking me under the table. She nearly died. Luckily, I happened to be in the alley. I pulled her away just in time before he raped you and killed you and then raped your dead body. Jesus fuck. I look at Caroline and Kira staring at Ava, their mouths wide open. Ava just stares back at them, smoking. It was those kittens that set him off. He thought they were actual kittens, so he grabbed her thinking, you know, lunch. But then when he realized she was a woman of flesh, that awakened all sorts of other sordid appetites. She has a bunch of kittens on her dress, like printed cutie kittens on her dress. Which is the other reason Ava was so disgusted by her when she found her, because she was like, you don't wear clothes like this. Who are you? I don't even recognize you right now. So yeah, she just like comes up with this very vulgar, aggressive lie about a wolf. Okay. Yikes. It's just incredibly awkward. And so Ava just excuses herself and leaves. When Samantha looks outside of the diner, she looks out into the parking lot. She sees Eleanor, the Duchess, talking to Ava. Uh-oh. And then Ava goes like sprinting off into the sunset. And so now Samantha's extra freaked out because she's like, what could she have said to her to make her run away like that? Like, she's very nervous that, you know, she told Ava that Samantha actually hates her, or she said something like disparaging to ruin their friendship or something. So just a very, very deep fear of hers. And so eventually when they all get to Eleanor, she wants to ask where Ava went. But before she can begin to ask this, before she can ask Eleanor, the Duchess, like, hey, what did you say to my friend? Eleanor says, hey, isn't that Jonah over there on the other side of the parking lot? He's like crouched by a car smoking a cigarette. She starts just waving at him and yelling his name from across the parking lot. And she's like, Jonah, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, here's, you know, Samantha. It's so good to see you. It's been a minute. Hee hee ha ha. And she's like very clearly making fun of him to his face, but he doesn't clock it because he only sees the good in the world. as per described by Samantha. So anyway, point being, Eleanor like has them talk to each other, and then she dips out. She just goes back to her car, and her and the other bunnies go and drive off. And now Samantha's basically just abandoned at this like diner place. And so Jonah's like, hey, do you want me to give you a ride home? Like it's raining out. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to go to the bus station, because she thinks that's where Ava went, because Ava is leaving town. That was also part of their discussion that they had at the diner was, I've already lost you to the bunnies. You were gone for 2 months being crazy. This town is sick. Everybody here is sick. Like, I have to go. I'm leaving, like basically immediately. She didn't give a specific timeline, but she was like, I'm going to go. So just whatever. And then left, stormed away. And so now she's worried that Eleanor said something that would make her leave immediately instead of leaving eventually. That makes sense. So Samantha's going to go and try to search for Ava. Jonah, he says, hey, no, seriously, I'll drive you wherever. I don't care. If you just want to hop in, I'll drive you to the bus station. She says, okay, awesome. They drive to the bus station. They drive to Ava's house. They go to the train station. They go back to the bus station. No sign of her. No sign of her anywhere in town. And she doesn't tell Jonah what's going on or what she's looking for exactly. And so at one point when she thinks she sees Ava and she like darts out of his car and runs across the street to go and talk to this lady and then comes back all defeated, he's like, hey, are you looking for drugs? I mean, I don't really have any drugs with me, but like we could pretty much like we could make something happen. Like, are you okay? What's going on here? She says, no, it's not that. I lost a book. You lost a book? I can take you to the store. We can go and get you one. She's like, no, they won't have it. It's like a special book. He says, okay. Sorry to hear that. And he's like, maybe I have, that book. You never did tell me the title of it. Maybe I have that book in my personal collection. He. Because there's a he sounds so creepy when I say it like that. He's a nice guy, okay? Like, he's genuinely a good guy. They had a lot of conversation going between the different stations and driving around town, and like he was like supporting her, and he was very, very polite and making small talk with her. And she's like totally doesn't give a shit about the conversation with him. She's just here for the ride, basically, and just here to try to find Ava and doesn't really care. And he's just kind of awkward also, which like doesn't help. And they have some cute discussion though, right? They open up to each other about music and the passing of, he lost his dad and she lost her mom. So there's a little bit of bonding over that and just some things in general. It doesn't come out of left field for him to be like, hey, maybe I've got the book in my house. It's genuinely appropriate to say in this context. And it was cute. Whatever. She says, no, I kind of think I just want to go home. But at the same moment, she gets a text message from the bunnies. And then she says, wait, can you actually take me, assumably, to Eleanor's house or to wherever house they're going? And so chapter 19 is her at Eleanor's house because it's time for another workshop, their weekly workshop. And while she's waiting to be let inside, she looks off to the side of the yard, and there is a beautiful deer, like a stag. She's like, okay, weird. It's like staring at her crazily. And then all of a sudden the door is open. She goes inside, and it's just like a whole thing. They have their little niceties and discussion back and forth, and then they say, Bunny, we really think it's time. We think you're ready for this. You should lead the workshop tonight. Oh. And so they give her a bunny. They're like, hey, we found this one earlier today. This is perfect for you. They have her sit down. She's holding the rabbit on her lap. And they're like, okay, to do this, to create a draft, just think about the most attractive guy ever. Like anything that you would ever want in a man. Nothing happens. And she's starting to feel like a failure, and they've waited a really long time, and nothing happens. There's no explosion. There's no nothing. And so after a while, they like try to like maybe coach her a little bit through it, yeah, think about your desire. Just think about what you want. She's like, what I want or what you want me to want? It's not that simple. And then the response from them that she's imagining You have no idea at all, do you? The bunnies seems to say to me. Sad, very sad, Samantha, to be lost like this. Sad, sad, sad that when someone asks you, what do you want? Nothing comes to mind but a pair of fists clutching little broken bits. Go on, Samantha. I close my eyes and see Ava, wandering alone in the snow and scuffed heels. Ava and me dancing on her roof. Who were we dancing with, really? Nothing. Each other, air, my lonely nights. And that's when I realized that whatever pain I have, whatever true want I have that lives under all this greasy, spineless needing to please, isn't something I want to give them. The bunny looks at me, his ears twitch, then unfurls suddenly. He looks right at me. He looks right at me with his red rabbit eyes and runs right out of the circle. And it's just very interesting that thinking of a man and being prompted to think of a man, nothing happened. But then when she starts thinking of Ava, the bunny just like gives up on even sitting on her lap. Like it had been sitting there for like a really long time leading up to that moment. It was pretty comfortable. It wasn't heading anywhere. And then all of a sudden she thinks of Ava and the thing runs off. So that's an interesting little tidbit. And then also an interesting little tidbit that it isn't something I want to give them. The spineless needing to please. So what does that mean? What is she hiding from them? What is she not wanting to tell the bunnies? So with the bunny running away, they're like, okay, well, this is over. This is weird and just not working. So like, let's all just go home and call it a night. And as they're all kind of parting ways, they look up across the road and there's a boy standing at the bus stop across the street. And they're like, oh, maybe I guess you did summon something. Like that has to be a draft, right? So they all like kind of sneak over there and they're like, he has to be a draft, but the drafts are supposed to knock and the bunny didn't explode. So like, what the frick is going on? But it's gotta be. They go and approach him and seems like a totally normal dude. He's even got hands, like doesn't have gloves on. He's looking at them like they're annoying and he's like, doesn't even really engage with them or anything. And they ask him like, hey, did you happen to see like a bunny or a man running around? Trying to play it off of why they're approaching him in case he is a regular guy. She tells him that they're looking for their pet bunny. I don't know. It's this really awkward kind of encounter. And he's like, yeah, I did see a bunny actually. It was hopping down the road earlier, but then this wolf came and just tore its throat out and killed the thing. It was really beautiful actually. Oh, that's sad. And the bunnies are like fascinated by this man. Like he is just beautiful. They are freaking in a trance over this guy. And so they stare at him with parted lips, clutching each other's sleeves and mine, shifting their weight, tossing their hair, running their tongues over their teeth. The man looks at me. Yours? He says. Mine? The bunny. Oh, yes. Sort of, Creepy Doll corrects. More like a collaborative effort, really, Cupcake says. It was ours, the Duchess says coldly. I realize this is the first time she's spoken. It was our bunny. Nature's so cruel, he says, the wild. He reaches inside of his black coat and the girls gasp again. Gun, knife, axe, cigarette, lighter. A flash of his wolfish face in the flame, hands ungloved and totally human. No claws, no hooks, just flesh. Even though I already knew there was no way in hell, my heart sinks. Failure. I'm a failure. In chapter 21, we have like the follow-up conversation that happened after they interacted with this guy and went home, like went their separate ways and whatnot. And they were kind of freaking out because they're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have given that random strange man our names. But I mean, he looked really, really creepy and like he could assault us. Maybe we shouldn't have given him all that information. And they're like, yeah, but he's so creepy. He probably doesn't even have social media. It's not like he has a Facebook. He's too weird for that. What? But they're also saying it in a way that like he's really hot and they like him. But also he's really creepy and scary. I don't know what's happening. I don't like it though. But they go off to their final workshop of the semester, the one with their like actual teacher. They have that. It's nothing too crazy. They get some critiques from the teacher that everybody blows off and they're just kind of like, oh, she's just being a hater, and we just need to like cling together and do better, or I don't know, just like super weird stuff. For their final project in class, one of the bunnies, she's like, well, why don't we just like reflect on home? Why don't we just talk about what home is to us? And this freaks Samantha out. And so she just like starts like scrawling all over her notebook of like I'll never tell, I'll never tell. And she tells them that, and she's like, I don't want to share. It's like, what the okay. Odd. After this workshop, they have an end of semester or like end of the wherever. They're going into winter break. I guess that's semester, yeah. End of the semester party. So they're there. It's like a cookie thing. Even people from like other like faculty areas and the poets like Jonah's there. And like some other random folks are here eating cookies. Somebody else who is a random folk that happens to be in this room is the lion. And he invites Sam to come and talk to him. Like come to his office. Uh-oh. In his office, we learn that he is worried about her writing because, again, she kind of acknowledged that she didn't send him any like updates on her thesis or anything at all. And so he's like, hey, I don't want to be this way, but like I'm worried about you. I'm worried about your writing. And if you don't have some solid something to give me by the end of winter break, we're going to have a serious conversation about you not graduating. And she gets really embarrassed by this, right? Really embarrassed about this interaction and says she has a plane to catch and like scurries out. And while doing so, she's having this memory, but just kind of this feeling memory, this just like overwhelming, just whatever kind of just like crawls into her brain. And it's of her being asked about his conduct and if he was inappropriate with her and her just saying no to everything, like that he didn't do anything wrong. Chapter 23, it's winter break, and she is spiraling, like badly. Maybe after this interaction with him, after Ava disappearing and that just, having like a really horrible impact on her and being away from the bunnies. She's just all by herself. She can't go home because, again, her dad is like a criminal. And so he's like, no, honey, you shouldn't come. It's not safe. And no, I can't come and visit you because I'm on like, a list and they'll find me and blah, blah, blah. So sorry, it's just best if you stay there. So she's just all by herself at her apartment, just being sad. Days and nights are all blurring together. And all she's thinking about is how dangerous the town is. Again, going back to this whole idea of like how just absolutely horrible it is. And there's such an emphasis on that. And I don't know if it's like it's talking about literal crimes, but I don't know if it's, wow, how lame is that going to say if I say it's like a manifestation of like her feelings about things, or if like she's demonizing the place in her head about like how horrible of an area this is that like she's creating these crimes, or are they actually happening? Or is she just like, is this like her negative feelings about living here coming out? I don't know. There's just like this very odd emphasis on different parts of the town. And I guess like an aspect of it too is like Warren is this like private elite university. And that's why her and Jonah are outsiders, right? Not just like in terms of not going to Ivy League schools prior to this, but also like money wise. There's a little bit of a gap there. And so that highlights it, right? You have this like really like rich, insulated university of rich kids. And then you have the city around it that might not be as nice as that lifestyle. And so it's like, is she bringing this bias from being in this area? But also she grew up poor. She lives on the poor side of town. Like she lives in like a shitty apartment. Like they joke about it killing her. Like, why is it, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, are we just highlighting the differences in the cultures here? Because we're not really, is this to highlight her outsiderness? But yeah, so she's just like, all she's thinking about is how bad this town is. And if she's not doing that, if she's not spiraling, she's out searching for Ava for like days at a time, just going down all of the streets and just trying to see where she could possibly be, and is like texting her, but ends up erasing them every time and doesn't actually send any of them off. On Christmas Eve, she is at a fancy grocery store, just kind of like hanging out, trying to pass time, and runs into the guy from the bus stop. He's like down an aisle and kind of recognizes her, gives a little like, gives her like a real quick like head nod, kind of acknowledging her existence. And then she can't believe he's here, and she's watching him and he's stealing stuff. And then all of a sudden her teacher appears, the one that taught the workshop, that lady. She's like, hey, what are you doing here? I thought you went home. No, I didn't make it home. And she's like, oh, well, like you should come to my house tomorrow. You should come over for Christmas. Don't worry. It's not just you. It's other students who didn't make it home for the break. You should come over. She says, okay. Meanwhile, homeboy in the back is just stealing stuff left and right. Christmas Day, she goes over to the teacher's house, and it is so nice. Everything is like way, way fancy. She's overly polite. Everybody's just super kind. And she sees Jonah in the corner of the room, and she's like just surrounded by this like opulence and happy people and the noises and whatever. And she's just miserable. And so she's hearing her mom's voice in her head asking, why can't she be happy? And so she like tries to ignore these different memories that are playing through her head, and she talks to Jonah because Jonah's here. Turns out he's like the only other student that didn't go home for the holidays. So it's kind of almost like this weird date thing. So he's here, she's here, obviously the teacher and her husband, and then her teenage daughter, and they're just hanging out, talking. And they're like just over dinner BSing. And the questions get a little deep, and the responses get a little deep. They're like, hey, so Jonah, if you didn't get into this school, if you weren't in this writing program, like what do you think would be going on? What do you think you'd be up to in life? And he essentially says, I don't know, I'd probably be dead. Might be just passed out somewhere or dead. I don't know. Just, it wasn't looking too good for me. I wasn't doing too good before I came here. And then the teacher, she just makes some like weird, light, offhanded comments to just like keep the cheeriness up, which I guess is like a host. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. But it is just like a very odd, again, we get this like juxtaposition of this like overly sweet and then this like overtly dark, and just the clash of it back together or back to back like that. It's very interesting. And so they continue just having these like conversations. Very weird. The teacher is going on about like, yeah, I'm so happy that, you know, you were able to work it out with the bunnies. I know you wanted to drop out of it at the beginning of the year, but I'm glad you guys worked out your differences. And this is the best cohort ever. Like, you guys are so great. All of a sudden, she looks up over her teacher's shoulder, and one of the caterers, because of course this is being catered, this is, again, opulent. Yeah, they're just at their house, but it's opulent. So they have caterers. One of the caterers is one of the drafts. It was one of the boys' men thing that they created in their gory attic room thing they got going on. So he's here, and this makes her laugh. Maybe a little hysterically, maybe a little, I don't know. She just starts laughing at this whole idea. And then Jonah starts laughing because he's nice, I guess, and just starts kind of giggling with her. And then the caterer laughs, and then everybody's laughing, and it's just weird. And she's thinking in her head, if Ava was here, she would be telling me to run. This is so dangerous and crazy and blah, blah, blah. Like, these people are insane. And then at the thought of Ava, she's like, and Ava's gone. And she starts crying. And so then Jonah is like, whoa, are you okay? Like, do you want some pills? I can give you something if like you're needing anything. Not crack or anything, just pills, just legal stuff. They'll still make you feel better, probably relaxed. He hands me a small cloudy plastic bag of various colored pills. They look like shiny backs of poisonous bugs. He's still cupping a holiday napkin with his shrimp tails on it. His hair has been combed to look like what he imagines to be festive or presentable or both. Jonah, I'm so sorry. For what? It's nice to hang out with you again. He smiles. Under the parka, I see he's wearing a button-down shirt and a tie featuring a graphic of Edvard Munch's The Scream, Jonah's formal outfit, which he's worn to every school event. I should go. I could drive you. No, you should probably stay here. It's bad enough I'm leaving early. I don't want to draw you away too. Okay. Hey, do you ever find that book? What book? The one that you were looking for the other day. Remember? In chapter 26, she ends up on the bus and is just having a not great time, zoning out, and then looks up and the old lady in front of her is reading a poster about schizophrenia and reading it to herself and then being like, yep, got that, like that she has all of these symptoms. And that concerns me because I feel like schizophrenia literally never gets brought up or referenced in a book without it playing some crazy role or part of the twist or part of the whatever. And if that's the cop-out that we're going to go with this without actually properly talking about it or, I'm concerned, I guess, is the best way to put what's happening. I'm concerned. So as I'm saying that and complaining about it and concerned about it, all of a sudden she feels a warm breath on her neck. whispered into the nape of my neck, blowing softly into the small hairs there, taking the words right out of not my mouth, but my mind. I turn. He's in the ripped up seat behind me, headphones around his neck blaring Your Silent Face. Black trench coat frame slouched coolly, his chaotic hair falling into his eyes, each its own cloud of glittering gray smoke, smiling at me like we're friends. So, did you ever find your bunny, Samantha? You said it died, I say in a small voice. Did I? He shrugs. Turns to the window even though there's nothing to see but grime. I notice a tattoo of a black axe on his neck. Pinpricks all down the back of my neck, like stabbing stars. He looks back at me, eyes that are profoundly every color and no color at all. So where are your friends? Friends? When he looks at me, I feel my rib cage open like a pair of French doors. Everything that keeps me alive suddenly bared and there for the taking. They're not my friends. I hate them. The words leave my mouth in twisted smoke. He smiles, light on green leaves. Me looking up at the moving clouds, the damp grass on my back, the smell of wet budding flowers all around me. I'm 15. So where are those girls who aren't your friends, Samantha? A club in my old town, my back against chipped bricks, a stranger's white spikes in my fist. Frankenstein forehead but a red pillow of a mouth. He was wearing a silver shirt that gleamed in the dark of the bar like an aquarium fish. The bass of a new wave song pounding in my heart, his mouth a clove smoky tunnel into which I was falling and falling. It's Christmas break. They all went home for the holidays. What? And so then he's like, all on the same plane, the same burning plane that's spiraling out of the sky as we speak? Again, this like whole thing with this like random violence. He smiles this time. I see the drummer of a black metal band who once rattled my soul's spine. Different planes, different places, I say. What a shame, he says. He pulls a silver flask from his coat pocket and drinks, and then offers it to me. Shakes it at me when I hesitate. I take it from him and drink. Green fire hatches in my gut. I try to hand it back to him, but he stops me. You keep that. You look like you need it. But what about you? I'm high on love, Samantha. Cherry blossoms falling. Rob Valencia convulsing on the stage floor. A fishmonger I once had sex with, whose eyes said, I know the insides of everything. He leans forward now, so close I can feel his cold breath on my face. Forests, freshly killed things, the smell of wet white sage. He reaches a hand out toward my face. He might try to kill me. That's fine. But he just grazes my cheek gently. When I open my eyes, he's showing me his palm, dusted with gold glitter from when the bunnies painted my face like a fairy princess. It's been on my skin for God knows how long. He smears the glitter across his own cheek and smiles at me. Even with the glitter on his face, he remains all of the not cute things of this world in one man. And then it hits me. I feel like a sudden singing in my skin, a blaze in my blood, an opening of my heart itself. Are you my home? He says. And just then, the bus stops. He gets up, slips his headphones back on, and walks down the aisle toward the door, whistling. Okay. Okay. So I think she's realizing, oh, this guy actually is my draft. Like, I created this guy. And I think that's what all of those random memories that were coming back were, like her being 15 and Rob Valencia and all those other weird things that I was rattling off there. Like, all of those, I think, were just memories that fed into her creating him, which is interesting. Those are all very interesting things to, like, want in a partner or to, like, imagine and put up into a partner, which I'm assuming it's, like, some deeper thing of, like, these were the moments I felt, you know, the most safe, or this was home, and these were, like, the just overwhelmingly good times, in addition to, obviously, like, the attraction one with the drummer and, you know, just beauty at, like, a superficial level. But I think some of those memories are just, like, the feeling of comfort and safety is what she was trying to, like, project into somebody, right? Maybe? What are your thoughts about that one? So, chapter 27, she follows him. Kind of tries to be sneaky about it, but she knows that he knows that she's following him. And then they go and they go and they go. And then all of a sudden, they're somewhere really familiar. And then right as she's realizing that it's Ava's house, they're at Ava's house, he disappears. And she doesn't know where he went. And so she's just standing there, just like lost in this moment, lost in the fact that she's back at her house and maybe she is finally home. Forever. Forever is how long I've been standing here in the cruddy snow outside of her house, the frozen knob of her front door hand in my hand, staring up at her vacant windows, watching, waiting for any signs of life or light, but all is dark and dead within, like she doesn't live here, never lived here, like maybe no one has in a long, long time. No sign of the man anywhere, as though I dreamed him, nothing but empty, dark all around. Give up, the dark says. Give up, give up, give up. Go away and be a bunny, bunny. Hop, hop, hop along. Isn't that what you wanted? I didn't know what I wanted. Too late, the dark says. Too late now. I hear a scratching sound from above and look up. Raccoons regarding me curiously from the roof. My priests, Ava called them. I've confessed everything to them. Not that I want to burden them, but raccoons, you know, they can handle it. They love trash rot, all the bottom things. You should try it sometime, Smacky. I watch them scatter and disappear, all but the little one we used to cheer on in the hour between the dog and the wolf as he made his careful way down the drain pipe. The small raccoon is standing still in the snowy eaves gutter, looking down at me. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I should have never left. I fucked up. I miss her so much. I watch him turn and disappear down the side of the house and shut my eyes. Smacky, is that you? A small yellow square lights up the whole night. Her feathery-haired Her feathery-haired silhouette is standing there like it's been standing there the whole time. Jesus, how long have you been standing out there? Forever and ever. But I say, oh, just like a minute or so. Loser, didn't I give you a key ages ago? And we go into part 3. I don't know, don't ask me. So Samantha goes into Ava's house, has dinner, they hang out, they talk, and she spends time with her and just staying with her. She takes my hand in hers, still gloved in black mesh like it's Gothic prom in 1985, her pale hair surrounded by flames like live snakes. Just something I want to note to you, because I don't know if I've said it before, but she has a weird thing where Ava is like such a badass outcast, again, like half-shaved hair, super colorful, you know, against the grain, whatever. She also dresses uniquely to include always wearing like fishnet gloves. And so she stays at Ava's house, goes to sleep, sleeps for freaking ever, and they just go back to kind of normal. They're just hanging out, passing time. She worries that I'm still under the control from the bunnies. Anyway, it's important that I exercise agency, free will. All day she makes me practice even the littlest of things. She spends the rest of winter break, January, February, and March with Ava. And it goes great because for the first time in so long, it comes. It not only comes, it's easy. I can't believe how easy. As easy as being here with her, it's joyous, it's frightening, it might very well be terrible. I don't care, at least it's back. The thing that I thought I lost or killed or left me in disgust, not gone or dead, after all but here, just like she is now, right here with me across the table. Samantha is able to write again. She has gotten past her writer's block. She just needed some time away from the university and a time away from the bunnies and just to be with Ava. Also, as this time has been passing, she still has not seen the guy, right? The supposed, maybe possibly her draft, maybe possibly just some strange guy that pretty much showed up at Ava's house and then disappeared. Still no sign of him. And she's thinking about this, and at the same time, as this is like coming back to her and she's like, oh yeah, that guy disappeared, she hears footsteps upstairs. And she's like, oh, what the heck? What is that? She's like, oh yeah, I've got a guy staying with me. It's just Max. You know, yeah, he's coming right down actually. So he comes downstairs. Max is the draft. Maybe guy, maybe whatever. But it turns out he is Max, and Max is Ava's boyfriend. Ava can feel the tenseness between Samantha and Max, and so she's like, do you guys know each other? Samantha immediately says no. Max says no, but kind of sort of. We've seen each other around, like we know of each other. And then Ava, you know, is saying goodbye to him because he's going off to work, and she asks him to make sure he comes home early and brings some like wine and cooks dinner for them so that they can all finally like meet and catch up and stuff. and then they like kiss goodbye. And it's just such an awkward position to be in. And so in chapter 31, it is dinner time, and he cooked rabbit 4 different ways. It's his specialty, and he hopes that we enjoy it. And it is delicious. But this is also making her question everything as well, because did the giraffes eat bunnies? I never saw them eat anything but pixie sticks. I watch him tear the bunny meat with his straight white teeth, wash it all down with the dark red wine he brought home, which I'm sure he must have stolen, all the while staring at Ava. She is cherry blossoms falling. She is serious moonlight. She is shivering green leaves. Meanwhile, his animal shadow climbs and climbs the walls, horned and furred and fanged. Do bunnies have horned shadows? Not any that I have seen. How can Ava not see it? But she doesn't, at all. She looks at him from across the table, chin on her lacy palm, cigarette turning to ash between her fingers. Believes him when he tells her that he too wishes to blow up Warren. He too has a soft spot for the Cramps, Scott Walker, 60s French pop, the scores of Mancini. Oh, and he just loves to dance. Tango, especially. Responsibility is what I feel. Ethical, moral obligations. Because you simply can't sit back and allow your best friend to date an animal man of your own creation and say nothing. You can't. And say nothing? That would just be wrong. On so many levels, I have to say something. And as she is about to, he interrupts, offers to give her more wine, and she's thinking, he's trying to get me drunk. That's obvious. Looking at him is like looking into a black mirror, is like being inside my own dream mare. Dinner with him and Ava is in fact like an extended deja vu. I know exactly when he's going to lean forward in his chair and look at her with an intensity that makes me flush. Or when he's going to lean back, nod, and agree with whatever she just said. When he's going to say, yes, exactly. Me too. Oh, I feel the same way. Oh, we'll come back to this in 2 more chapters. And so they're just having this whole flirtatious thing, and it's eating away at Samantha, and she doesn't really know what to do, and she's zoning out. And so eventually, to bring her back in, Ava initiates a conversation between Ava and Max. Says that, hey, she's a writer, and she's over at the school, and Ava is super excited to tell Samantha that Max has an art project. He too is an artsy guy. He goes on to say, oh, I don't like to talk about my work, Samantha. Ruins the thrill of the reveal. Surely you understand. Samantha's the same way about her writing, Ava says, patting my arm. He stops sawing at what looks like an ear stump and smiles at Ava. Really? Are you kidding? She's so secretive about it, Ava says. I'm not so secretive, I mumble. You should see her, scribbling in that notebook, covering the page with her hand like it's a test in junior high. She smiles at me. It's kind of sweet. Max grins at me from across the table. That's because she's writing about you, he says. I feel my chest catch fire, a redness spreading that I know, even in this dark room, is going to betray me. I can feel Ava looking at me. Samantha, is this true? But I can't face her. I'd write about you too, he continues to Ava, if I were a writer. Fuck off, she tells him softly, but she looks touched, really touched. I would. You're the most exciting and wonderful thing that's ever happened to me. The way he says it, so sincere, like it came from his own brain and not page 3 of my secret notebook, which is shoved under my bed. She tells him to shut up, but I know she doesn't mean it. Her shut up is, continue, please. Much to my horror and fascination, he does. He leans forward and takes her hand, but for his monstrous shadow on the wall, he is the embodiment of the edgy but romantic soul. Sid Vicious when Nancy was his son. Being with you, he says to Ava, is like being in literature. I have no idea where you'll take me next, but I'm excited. My life could change, and I'm not alone anymore. I die inside when he says this. Recall the words which I wrote down in another older notebook. Scrawled it ecstatically on the lonely campus green when I was hungover after one of our first day and night-long escapades. After I met her at 11 in the morning and she took my hand and didn't let go until the sunrise. I might have whispered it to the flying hair statue, the leaves falling in my never yet braided hair. I met a friend. To hear my words from his mouth now, the shame, the melodrama, the lonely, sweaty, hopeful need. I ask for the floorboards to open up and swallow me. I look down at them and pray. They're covered in dust because Ava never dusts, and neither do I, and apparently neither does he. Okay. So that's a little confusing. confusing about what's happening and what's going on. But what I'm gathering from this is she has a wicked crush on Ava. Like a crazy, crazy crush on Ava, and just hasn't been able to admit those feelings to her friend. After dinner, they dance, and of course he loves to tango, and they all try to dance together, and Samantha and Max, when they dance together, they keep going the exact same way and stepping on each other's feet, but they dance with Ava individually, like perfectly. And as Samantha is watching Ava and Max dance, that's when she realizes, oh, they're like screwing. And this catches Samantha off guard. She's a little bit jealous. There's a lot of weird kind of feelings going on there. Also, there's the weird ethical complications now, on top of just in general. Now it's like, oh no, he's like with my friend. I don't know what to do about that. But then also, that means that he is capable of having intercourse, which was something that they were not able to make happen in any of the drafts before this. And it was like a big kind of contentious thing about these boyfriends that they were creating, was that they weren't able to like full on, do it. And she continues asking more and more questions about him, and Ava just doesn't answer it. She says, I don't know what he does all day. I'm not stalking him. And then goes on to tell Samantha about how they met and how sweet he is and the dates that they've gone on and yada, yada, yada. And she can tell that Samantha isn't listening. So she's like, dude, what is your problem? Like, what is even going on? And Samantha's like, I don't know. He's just intense, okay? I'm worried about you. And Ava says, I like that. He's sexy. Like, she's into the intensity. And so Samantha, realizing this is not working, she says, Ava, I have to tell you something. Tell me. Don't tell her. You'll fucking lose her forever if you tell her. Ava looks at me a long time. She kisses me on the forehead. Don't worry, Smacky. I still love you most of all. Which is really sad and hurts my heart. Samantha decides to go upstairs and get some space from the situation because it's just a lot and she feels overwhelmed. And so she goes into like her old room and she's looking through some things, finds an old notebook and, just revisiting. And then she finds different handwriting toward the end of the notebook on this like random page. And she's looking at it and it's a list of emails and passwords. There's one for Samantha, for all of the bunnies, and then for the teacher and also for the lion or her like thesis guy. And then she hears a buzzing and she picks up this phone and it's not her phone. And she's looking at all the text messages that are coming in and it's from all of the bunnies. It is Max's phone and Max is flirting with all of the bunnies and they're all calling him by different names, talking to him with some crazy stuff. One of them ends up sending like a nude to the phone while she's looking through it or looking at it. And everything is just spiraling out of control in her mind. Why does he have this weird list and these passwords? That doesn't seem very good. That is incredibly scary. And what is he doing at my school all the time? And why is he seducing all of the bunnies and my best friend? Like, this is, whatever is happening is not good. A little bit more random things at night. She thinks she sees a face in the window. It's like storming later that night or something. And she like is looking at her reflection. And then she sees instead a face appear in the window. And it is Eleanor, the Duchess. It's her. But then they go out there and they look and nothing's there. So I don't know what the heck you're seeing, lady. You're imagining things. And then she gets an email that there is an emergency mandatory workshop at 5:00 in the cave. Yeah, the workshop is held in what is called the cave, but it is really just a black box theater in the basement of the Narrative Arts Center. No visible doors, no windows, and of course no clocks. Only dark, damp walls that evoke the womb. I enter late and blah, 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 and then it continues about it. So, very creepy area to have your class in. There, I think there's probably some symbolism there. So in chapter 33, she goes to the cave. She gets there. Her teacher's there and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you emailed me. I really appreciated that email. She did not send the email. This was an email set up by Max for whatever reason, whatever he did. She says, Samantha, there's no shame in transparency and a cry for help. Other teachers might have found it, weak, I suppose. I thought it was candid, brave, and so did your wonderful peers who are eager to help. Such a wonderful group, so supportive of each other. She squeezes my hand very tightly. We think we're alone. We think we are so special. We are deeply mistaken. Now, as per your email, I know you don't have any work to share with us today, but not to worry. It's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. For you, today will just be about listening, about watching, and perhaps offering some feedback if you feel so compelled. How does that sound? So they're going to have an impromptu workshop because of an email that Max sent. Keep this in mind. He has orchestrated this. He has made all of them gather to be here to have this meeting, right? So she sits down, and then all of a sudden the bunnies start coming in, but it's one by one. They're not together. They don't acknowledge each other when they come in. There's no excitement. They don't even say hi to each other. And some of them do, but it's like a curt nod, and they use their actual names, but they're not calling each other bunny anymore. And they look so different. And there's just obviously something happening between all of these girls. So each of them presents their white boxes, right? They're going to go up, they present to the group of like their work and what they had worked on. And each of their poems are about falling in love with a guy, how it's changed their lives in like whatever capacity. So the first bunny goes up there, Caroline. She gives her poem, her presentation. Again, it's about falling in love with this boy, having like an impact on her. And very clearly, when she stops talking, all of the women are jealous. Nobody gives any feedback. They don't like what she said. There's just bad undercurrents happening across the friend group or previous ex-friend group. And in her white box, and she opens it up, is this like ginormous cupcake. And she starts devouring it, which I honestly can't remember who is who. Is Caroline Cupcake? Is this some like symbolic thing of her eating and no longer being a cupcake, no longer being a part of this group? I don't know. And also, she's eating a giant cupcake, when this entire book has emphasized that they only eat mini versions of food. So also just more evidence of her like not being a part of this group anymore. The next bunny who goes is Kira, and in her white box is a creepy doll. She tells some story. And then the other two, which I can't find what's in theirs, but they all end up getting in a fight as they're doing these presentations and talking shit about each other because they're all talking about Max. They all are writing love poems and giving these presentations and fighting each other and breaking up their friendships over Max. He is ruining the bunnies. That was his whole goal. His like art show presentation, his thing that he's been working on is this moment that Samantha is experiencing. The collapse of the bunnies. That is his like big thing that he kept disappearing for. Yeah. And so she's realizing this kind of all at the same time as she's watching these girls fight. And the professor chimes in and she's like, hey, like, what are you thinking, Samantha? What's your take on all of this, all of their art? Now they're all looking at me, sort of pleadingly. I think of Max, casting his huge shadow over each of them in turn, playing the sadist, the sly god, the garbage man, sitting in their living rooms, in their bedrooms, smiling at each of them like he's the bachelor, holding a red rose between his pointed fingers, holding their hands, handing them each a small white box. This is you. And then I feel I've fingered their various underwear, am deeply unbearably familiar with the colors and cuts, the hand feel, and I know all of the songs on their Spotify sex playlists that I held, some physical violent body horror stuff. I kicked their stuffed ponies off their sleigh beds, caused their nightstand novels to topple, their bottles of melatonin and Valium to spill to the floor, their jelly bean colored vibrators to roll around the little drawer, beginning to collect dust at last. And after, mine was the hand that turned out the unicorn-shaped light, the breeze coming from their open bedroom windows cooling my skin as I replayed their various humiliations, a triumphant smile on my untorn lip. So she like living vicariously through her creation thing, like through Max. Is she Max? Did she magically create and like give part of herself into him? Is she experiencing through him? You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of crazy. At the end of this, they all go their separate ways. Samantha goes back home. And she runs into Max and she kind of confronts him about what is going on and what he did to them and like, you know, this breaking this spell. And she's like, they're acting possessed. Like, what did you do? And all he says is they're free now from each other anyway. So she's like, do you realize that they're all in love with you? Did you sleep with them? Did you woo them? And he just changes the topic and like holds her face. And he's like, Samantha, did you or did you not enjoy it? What about Ava? I ask. He lets go of my face, becomes Mr. Intensely Sincere. Christian Slater with the bomb in his trench coat pocket. Christian Slater with the baboon heart. What about Ava? He asks. Wouldn't she be upset if she knew? If she knew what exactly, Samantha? He looks at me until I blush. What are you guys whispering about down there? Ava yells. She's on the roof among her raccoon priests, deep in her drink me. Don't ask. Don't look at me like that. He looks up at her like she is the sun. All he's missing is a bouquet of twigs, a soft filter, the sky to open and let fall upon his head a spotlit movie rain that will drip from his hair onto his eyelashes, slide into the rivulets down his knifey cheeks. Is he crying or is it rain? We'll never know. And anyway, listen to the love song swelling all around us. There's a lot of like imagining and building into scenes and scenarios. You know what I mean? While at dinner, she gets an email from the Lion with her professor, teacher lady CC'd on it. Subject line is checking in. The message said, I'm afraid we need to have a chat at this point. 7 at the cave tonight, please. You're going to show up into this dark, scary room thing on campus at 7 o'clock at night. I mean, at least the other teachers CC'd on it, but that seems a little bit sketchy. And so she is about to go and like go to this weird meeting thing. But first she talks to Ava. Max is across the house after cleaning up dishes and stuff after dinner. And she's like, Ava, look, you have to listen to me. He's not real. Max isn't real. What do you mean he isn't real? I mean, I made him. She laughs. I'm serious. You made him? She repeats. I nod. Yes, from a bunny. Closing my eyes, it's all too terrible. You made him from a bunny. I nod again. Don't hate me, I plead. Please don't hate me. Samantha, look at me. What the fuck are you talking about? So I tell her everything about the bunnies, about the boys, about workshop, what happened after workshop is like in the quotations, like the summoning things they did. What happened after she went away, how I made this boy, only I didn't know it at first because he didn't seem like a bunny boy at all. He was so different from the others. He was actually so real seeming, I didn't know he was a bunny myself until later. And by then he'd already hooked up with her. I tell her he loves her because I love her, but I tell her he's also fucking with the bunnies to get back at them. Not because he loves them or anything, he hates them because I hate them, which makes sense. Anyway, I think he's stopped now. Fucking with them? I'm not sure. They might still be in love with him. They might be pissed. Definitely they are pissed, probably plotting something. Look, it's all very unclear. The question of intentions, the question of what everyone wants, of where this is all leading in the end. All I know is we could all be in very grave danger, and it's all my fault. Just word vomits all of this out to Ava, who she's like, you're very talented. You're a very talented writer. What? Ava, no, this is real. I'm telling you, it's real. I know it sounds insane. I turn to look at her, but she's looking down at Max. He isn't hunched over. He's standing up, looking up from her from where he stands below. He waves at us, at her. We both watch him wave, dark hair covering one eye, earnest face, waving and waving and waving, his hand high above his head. She looks at him, then back at me. She looks at me for so long and so intently, I want to look away, but I don't. Then something in her expression shifts. The laughing lightness fades and something terrible dawns in her eyes. Samantha, I'm sorry, I say, quickly cutting her off. I don't know where I came up with that story. Crazy, I guess. I'm still pretty messed up. You should get going to your meeting, she says. No more talking of blowing it off. I start to climb down the ladder clumsily under her gaze. Then suddenly I am possessed by a terrible feeling. I stop and turn around and slip and almost fall and kill myself. She's still standing there, no longer watching me, but watching him. Ava? What? Nothing, I say, but I don't move. Can't bring myself to leave her, even though the shingles are crackling beneath my feet and I feel myself starting to slip again. You'll still be here? I ask. When I come back? She smiles. Of course I'll still be here. Where would I go? And that's when I knew Ava would die. It's not a spoiler. I'm just saying that was my gut feeling when I got to that part. I said, oh, I was right. Oh, okay. Nobody says that. That's such a setup. That's such a setup line for a character to freaking disappear or die or something stupid. The other thing I wanted to highlight was her saying, he waves at us at her. We were both watching him waving and waving and waving his hand high above his head. I think that's the way that the bunnies were waving at the party at the very beginning of the year. And this gesture is so bunny-like that Ava believes it. She realizes because of that motion. She's like, oh my freaking God, it really is. She's telling the truth. It's this like fake bunny boy thing, which is also just a crazy thing to believe in general. And then suddenly just be like, oh yeah, I guess that is what it is just also a crazy reaction. And so then she just tells Samantha to go away, and she does. And we just move on with life. Samantha is at the cave. Hearing his voice makes her think visions of leaving the alley with him, getting into the passenger seat of his car, watching him drive us somewhere. Where are we going? I didn't care to ask. Then at a stoplight that he nearly missed, that he had to drunkenly slam on his brakes to catch, I saw the bunnies through his passenger window. They'd moved their drunken hugfest to some bistro terrace near campus that sold champagne by the glass. Though I kept staring straight ahead, right through the windshield at the eternal red light, I saw them see me in his car, see us. I kept my chin up, my stare straight. Think whatever you want, think the worst, I dare you. I glanced at him out of the corner of my eye. He was looking straight ahead at the windshield too, literally looking as straight ahead as you can look. And I knew that he had seen them too, that he'd seen them see us. And then suddenly it was all wrong. Me sitting in his car, us together, my legs in lace tights full of holes, my heels dangling from my feet, my wildly swaying mind, the way the sky and the earth were at such odd angles with each other, the terrible glimpse I caught of my face, its expression in his side view mirror, all wrong, and him beside me in the driver's seat, trying to appear sober, waiting calmly for the light to change. He was all wrong too. I'm acknowledging the power dynamic here, okay? Like it would be wrong for him to engage in this relationship, but she can still be a participant in it. And so I'm wondering if she was like an active and willing participant in this relationship, knowing that it was like taboo, or did she think that it was innocent and him just being a friend and helping her out, right? Or like spending time together, and she was just like blind to him making advances, or willfully blind to him making advances, or was she okay with it until this point where she saw it through other people's eyes and other people that she wanted to impress, and then that made her question what she was doing, right? She wasn't just going with the flow for attention and fitting in and like having relationships. Now it's like not just this little fantasy bubble of this like relationship comfort that you're pursuing, but now that relationship bubble in the light of other people, and like who are you trying to fit in more with or be judged okay by, maybe, or maybe I'm just like making things up entirely. But I wonder if their relationship would have gone differently if this scene didn't happen. Like, would they have continued talking and hanging out and like, I don't know. But I say that to say that what happens next after the bunnies seeing them, I barely remember getting to his apartment that night, dimly recall stumbling up some dark spiral staircase that seemed to wind up and up forever, sitting across from him in his ever-spinning living room, one slurred talk skipping from one book to the next, from one topic to the next, like we were on a jerky fast forward, telling myself it was just like all those other times that we'd talked, and wasn't it nice to finally be talking again? Except this time I was doing all the talking. Except this time I spoke loudly, like I wanted to be overheard by someone outside, speaking my words with such exactitude, like the names of things and people and books weren't slipping from my lips, spilling onto his floor like wine, as though it weren't all wrong, him watching me, saying nothing at all, like I was a play he was already deeply familiar with, had seen many productions of, was frankly slightly bored by at this point, but there was some good parts coming potentially. Depends entirely on the production. I said I was glad that we were talking again, even though I was the only one talking. Talking into a silence so loud it felt like a living thing in the room. That seemed to be growing, gathering shape and shadow no matter how much I kept talking like everything was fine, until all my words spilled to the floor. I was too drunk to pick them up. So leave them there. I recall staring down at his polished floor, my head full of blood, my heart beating in my ears, a silence now roaring unbearably around me. And then embarrassingly, I began to cry, tell him everything, embarrassing things, shameful things, anything to change how silent it was and the kind of silent it was. How much I hated the bunnies, how much they hated me, my loneliness all winter, my worry that I'd disappointed him somehow, how blocked I was, my shifting, lonely life before I came here, my father falling off the map, even my mother. I sobbed like a child, except I was a grown woman slurring these words into her lace thighs, expecting at any moment for his silence to lift, the room to stand still, lighten, and right itself, a hand to reach out, a voice to offer some words of comfort and kindness. But he just kept drinking, kept watching, didn't speak, didn't touch. No arm around my shoulder, no hand on my knee, no cock against my thigh, no mouth on my neck or breath in my ear. The absence of his voice and touch so palpable it acquired physical weight. Oh my God. In the stories I tried to write about that night later, something happens in that silence. Rather than us getting up, walking down his dark hallway, him turning to go up the stairs, me stumbling out his front door, I fill it with something like sex, an insinuation of violence, a pass made, a line crossed, something, not nothing, definitely not nothing, because it's the only way to explain how neither of us could look one another in the eye for the remaining weeks of the year. The weird shame and hurt that would well up in me whenever I saw him pretend not to see me, or even worse, when he would just curtly nod. How we never hung out after that in a room with the door closed. How I left that night, wondering what the hell just happened, knowing nothing happened, knowing too that everything had changed. How empty and emptied I felt walking away with all my words still on his floor, wanting so badly to pick them back up, take it all back, wipe away the night, my dumb tears, my endless tumbling out of words. I never meant to give this to you. How alone now, truly alone I was, making my shuffling way through the dark, the ground seeming to give beneath my feet, the dark of the street and the dark of the sky, one big dark. So lost I somehow wound up at a pond instead of home. It's where you met me, Ava reminds me. See, Smacky, sometimes being lost is a fucking wonderful thing. These thoughts of hers get interrupted by the lion. His name is Alan. He's getting referred to as Alan now. Is able to find her in the dark and then calls her over. But then all of a sudden a hand grabs her. She blacks out. There's like figures around her. I don't know. It's a bunch of craziness. She comes back too, and she is tied to a chair. And the two figures, she thought at first that it was the teacher and the lion guy, like her advisor, but then she starts referring to them as stocky and slim. They're like, "Are you ready to discuss or not, Samantha? Can we begin, please?" And now he's referred to as Bunny Lion. Says with his ripped lips, his hands encased in the all too familiar black leather gloves, because hands are hard, Bunny. His lumpy body shrouded in a blue suit cut to hide all his deformities and imperfections in design, because bodies are hard too. He looks like he was made in 5 minutes. So why is it Bunny Lion and then the bunny professor here? I don't know. Again, this is probably the weirdest chapter of all, but that's really about the extent of it, until eventually they try to kill her, and like when she passes out from being strangled. And right before she passes out from this, they are saying they're going to give her a writing prompt, a surprise. It'll be waiting for you when you get home. And so when she comes to and the janitor lets her go, she books it home because she has a terrible, terrible feeling. "We're giving you a gift, Samantha, because we're so nice. It'll be waiting for you when you get home." And so she goes home and she's like yelling for Ava, trying to find her. And she doesn't. When she goes into one of the rooms, she instead, in the middle of the floor, sees a giant swan with a knife in its back and a pool of blood around it, and Max standing over the swan. You've read books that say things like time stood still. I always thought it was bullshit, but it does. It can. It can stand still as I'm standing here in the kicked down doorway. It can stand as still as the blood splattered walls and the broken window. It can be as still as the giant dead swan with an axe in its back lying in the middle of the room, its white wings extended as though poised for flight, a pool of dark blood oozing from its giant body, as still as Max sitting beside it in the blood pool that seems to be spreading, as still as my own lips, which do not scream even as my body fills with something dark and fluid and burning. I stare at the long, lifeless white neck, the glinty blade cleaving the white feathers. It's a dream, I tell myself, the ground beneath my feet swelling and sinking as I float on the dark red water. Max, I say, and I hear the great crack in my voice right down the middle of his name. What is this? What happened? But he doesn't answer me. His whole body is turned away, hunched over the swan, oblivious. His head hangs, hair in his eyes. He is absolutely still. So finally she turns him around to actually look at her. I turn his shoulders around to face me, and it's like propping up a toy you want to play with, a sad, cheap doll who refuses to go along with the story. I shake him, and I shake him, and I shake him while I say his name, and still his head hangs down. I recall my mother shaking me like this. How many times she shook me like this when I was a child, when I was a teen. Samantha, please listen to me. Stop this, okay? This has to stop. You need to stop pretending. A sick feeling. With my hands, I raise his head up to meet my gaze. Max. His face is in my hands, so smooth and small and light, my palms tingle. Please tell me, where's Ava? But even as I ask, I know the answer. The answer is in the dark chill rising in me. The answer is in his face, which is staring at the swan with such love, like she is cherry blossoms falling, serious moonlight, light shivering on green leaves. The answer is my mother's voice suddenly flooding my ears, calling my name wearily, worriedly, scoldingly, Samantha. The answer is in the scent of green tea and wet leaf still hanging here and there in the air faintly, so faintly rising from the body like a wish made. The answer is in the white feathers still being blown softly, so softly around the room by the breeze from the open window, blowing softly through her hair like the white feathers whenever they caught the light. Blowing softly through her hair like white feathers whenever they caught the light. The breeze is my lover, Smacky. Meet my lover, the breeze. Blowing softly through her hair like white feathers, blowing around her face the last time she smiled at me with love. Always with love. The answer is in my own heart, which is caving in. What? And so we get a scene break, and she's having a flashback to last spring, after that horrible encounter, word vomit thing that she had with the professor. She ended up at that pond that she referenced. And so she's sitting on this bench by this pond, just being depressed and thinking about everything. And there's this really beautiful swan in the middle of the lake swimming around. And she's just watching it and wishing that there was somebody next to her, that she had somebody to talk to, that she could open up to anybody about this. And then suddenly somebody is sitting here beside me on the bench. A woman right beside me on the bench, smiling like we're already deep friends. Hey, do you have a light? Black silk dress, black mesh gloves, eyes a different color, one blue, one brown, gazing at me through a fishnet veil. Platinum hair like the white feathers when they catch the light. When I hand her the lighter, she smiles and thanks me. You look familiar, I say to her. Have we met before? She turns to me. Her smile is like light on my face, light shivering on green leaves. I think maybe we have. Something in her voice, a certain music to it, very specific, instantly familiar. Do you know the music I mean? It's not just a sound, but a place I think I've been before, where I could live forever. There is air and light in it. There are windows and doors. It is inside and it is outside. It is a hand, soft, firm, open. Have I held it before? Okay. So, this is the part where, again, I don't know if it's just a lack of editing or what, but the shivering on green leaves, you can't use that exact phrasing twice in one chapter. And the light dancing on leaves, probably, if I looked up on leaves, let's see what comes up. Yeah, green leaves is said 9 times. Light on green leaves, golden green leaves. There are golden green leaves. She is shivering green leaves. Right? Light shivering on green leaves, the golden green leaves she knows. I understand the whole point is all of these memories are tying together and like linking up to a particular person. And it's all culminating in the fact that Ava is also one of these beings. She turned the swan into Ava, right? Didn't know what she was doing, had no idea what it was, but that's what happened. And so all of these references through the book that we've gotten of like when she looks at Ava and it makes her think of blah, 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 or her favorite thing, or she looks at Max and it makes her think of this other of her favorite thing that's ever happened to her. It was her like putting all of those into the things that she created, into these like people that she made. And so it's a very interesting concept. I think that is like beautifully done. I love the idea of looking at somebody in like a particular way, like a shadow hits their face. It reminds you of this like crazy moment in your life. I love that. I just don't think it was executed very well, nor edited very well. And so it's kind of like losing it there. And then some of it just gets like a little cheesy and repetitive, which is like really sad because this is already a short book. And so I think there's probably a couple of times we could have cut it or done it differently. But yeah, so she's talking, you know, yeah, you look familiar. Have we met before? I think we must have. Something in her voice is familiar, blah, blah, blah. I look out at the pond now, empty, just lily pads floating on the still surface. Samantha. It's the hour between the dog and the wolf. We've consumed so much cocktail that it is probably poison, but fuck it, what a way to go. Rocking in each other's arms, between us a beautiful man we've made of air, and we're laughing because we're a shit show at the leading and following thing, but fuck that too, because I'm so happy. Here with you. I'm afraid to even close my eyes in case. Samantha! My mother is standing in the garden below, looking up at me on the roof, arms crossed, shaking her head. What is she doing here? Samantha, listen to me, please. You need to stop. Stop letting your imagination run away with you. Whatever. She said this to me before all my life. I always nod, yes, okay, listening, stopping, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't stopping because we were already running away again, me and my imagination. We were holding hands on the edge of the cliff by the North Sea. We were high up in a redwood tree. We were on a train to Paris. We were blue-lipped in the river trying to swim to India. Or we were just fucking running. Down a steep and endless hill, she and I, holding hands. She was a great girl-shaped forest. She was a thing on fire. Her hand was leaves and smoke and snow and flesh all at once. We were running away together down a curving dirt road, through a dipping valley of grass, by a rushing mud-colored river, into an even greater forest. Or we were just running who knows where. No idea. I didn't care, but I was excited. My life could change, and I wasn't alone anymore. And now we're tangoing on the roof. She reaches out and brushes my hair away from my face with her hand of black mesh. Tell me the story of how we met. And then she talks about the swan thing. Again, she's having these like back and forth moments of in this moment and then her mom confronting her about imagining too much and how this is the furthest that she's ever gone. This is the deepest I've ever retreated into the golden green leaves she knows I love so. She, being her mother, sighs and shakes her head at me from where she stands on the firm ground to where I'm wavering high in the branches, dancing on my rickety roof. I look at this woman swaying in my arms, slightly taller than I am, who feels as real as the earth itself, not something I conjured out of loneliness into bird circling a pond. Because how could I have not known? You're real, I tell this woman, aren't you? She looks at me as if considering this. Then she smiles, reaches out with a hand of flesh and fire and snow and air, strokes my hair. Smacky. I close my eyes, and then she's gone. The roof and the evening light are gone. I'm in a pool of blood, staring at a swan with an axe in its back. The room is dark and empty. No bed, no chair, no carpet, no curtains, no music, no lamps. Just a floor of an abandoned house, and the moon coming in red, in full through a barred window with a crack in the glass. Just me and Max on a concrete floor covered with dark blood. More than blood possible to come out of a bird. I look at the bird's long snake-like neck, dark glassy eyes wide open. The smell of green tea, wet leaves, hangs in the room so faintly now. I look at Max beside me, swimming in his anarchy trench coat. I stare at his face. The knives and the wolves have fallen away like so much costume makeup. His features no longer shift, no longer recall transcendent moments or former lovers. His face is simply my face, undisguised at last. familiar as mud, punched in with grief, rage. Suddenly I want to kill him. This thing I made out of hate and love and air in one animal. There's an axe right there, the handle slightly curved, cherry-colored, and then I know it wasn't him. I see now, the pink-white hand that clutched it, small and delicately fingered. And so she looks at the axe and she realizes Max didn't do this. It was Eleanor. Eleanor killed Ava. And as she's thinking that, I guess because, I don't know, because now they're in a warehouse. So then I was like, were you just imagining that this was an apartment? You were just like imagining that this was like a fully fleshed out house situation? Like you had dinner in here. You told us about having dinner. This was just, okay, sure, this abandoned thing. And then he looks a lot different than he did in your imagination. So was he like a real boy? Was she real? Where does the magic and the reality and the fiction and the whatever, I don't know where we're at. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's real and what's not and what's actually happening. But at the realization that it was Eleanor that killed Ava, it seems that he has somehow telepathically picked up on this as well. And he goes storming off. And she realizes that he is going to go to the bunny's house to kill them all because he grabs the axe on his way out. And so she calls after him. Max, please stop. Look, it's my fault. What? Ava, I told her about you. You told her about me? Before I left, that's why she made you leave. It's my fault. And she starts asking them, like, why did you do it? Why did you do it? Why did you kill Ava? And they're like, dude, what are you talking about? Samantha, we're not going to pretend we know the details of whatever squatter drama you had with your little fake threesome in that abandoned house on the west side. But we can tell you whatever happened in the end, we're sure it was for the best. You can really, really trust us on that. Maybe it was even, I don't know, to help you grow. What? And then they're just trying to like gaslight her into this, right? Because then they're like, yeah, Samantha forgets and conjures little bird friends, maybe more than friends, plays with them all by her lonesome and doesn't even realize. So embarrassing for you. That's super sad, like super crazy sad. Because she had to create friends. She had to create a friend for herself. And then some weird version of herself that I guess we might as well talk about it now. Obviously she loves Ava, right? And so she kind of created Ava, this like vision of like a perfect partner. And then created this like male version of herself that is confident and outgoing and like sure of himself. And, you know, obviously like flirtatious and does all these things, but also is open about his feelings with Ava. And so did she conjure a partner for Ava? I'm trying to remember what the context was, right? That was supposed to be like the dream man, and her dream man is herself, right? Because it was like they would dance and bump into each other's feet. He was quoting her books directly. He is her, or all the best parts of herself that she would want to have, right? And all of these like emphasized and put into like one person. And so she created herself, right? Right? Maybe. And so then they continue kind of making fun of her about not knowing the difference between like reality and delusions. You can't tell the difference between reality and an illusion. You know, we can't help you with that if you don't even know what's going on there. If you look deep and hard inside of yourself, maybe you'll finally see. I think you'll see that this was all for the best in the end. Totally for the best, girl. I mean, we were always like, you do you, but still, this had to end sometime, didn't it? I mean, you're about to go into the real world, aren't you, Samantha? You can't be having these sorts of attachment. It hits me then. There's no bunny boys languishing in the corners of her living room. The room is pristine, corners empty, even of dust. No evidence, no sippy cups on the coffee table, or pixie sticks dust, or half-chewed petals on the floor. No whining rising from the basement through the floorboards. Like heat that at first would give me nightmares made me want to go down there. No, Bunny, don't. Leave them there. That eventually I learned to not hear like white noise. None of it. Just them and me in a regular rich girl living room, beige as fuck, and all around us the regular dawn beginning to break, finger by pink finger. I can't kill them. I really can't. Because she's realizing like, they're real people, right? It's kind of clicking for her about like reality and this like illusion stuff, I guess. The Duchess's smile shifts, victorious, knowing my thoughts so instantly. No, wait, not victorious, dreamy. She suddenly looks like she's gaping at a dream. They all do. A lightness breaks across their half-veiled faces, like a rainbow just appeared above my shoulder. I turn. It's Max, his silhouette outside the living room window lighting a cigarette, his beautiful knife-like face lit up by the flame, the darkness again, just the red cherry of a cigarette moving away. So they all rush out to surround him, and he is staring at her with a look of like, bring it. And so then she grabs the axe, approaches him, and then takes an axe to his neck. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's a deer. And she had like put the axe in like part of the deer's neck, but it's like surviving. And then now it's like freaking the heck out and like bucking everywhere and ends up like trampling over the bunnies. Sorry, it's not funny. I mean, it kind of is. It's a glorious sight to watch it strike with its furious legs and shake its elegant head. No, 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 until they are all felled, knocked off their heels and lying on the wet dirt in their torn black silk, whimpering softly like their own bunny boys in the basement. Then and only then does the creature stop, rise to its full majestic height, stand exactly where it stood when I locked eyes with it here last winter, when it passed through her snowy yard like a dream. He looks at me once with his eyes of smoke, then saunters away into the trees. I watch it disappear into the leaves and the mist, the long shadows. Something heavy is in my hand, the handle of an axe. I drop it. Okay. Okay. And then we go into chapter 38, our very last chapter of the book. And it's graduation. She made it. She was able to write, I guess, and get through it. So she's at her graduation. It's going well. She's still looking in the crowd for Ava, even though she knows she won't be there, but it's like really sad. And then we get some thoughts of what happened to the bunnies, and they were telling everybody that it was a book arts accident. We were just these innocent girls in the night trying to make something beautiful. We nearly died. We nearly died, didn't we? In some book accidents that are making up, so nobody was suspicious of their weird, crazy wounds. And then she gets approached. Under the white tent, the low afternoon light on his face, he looks spectacularly unfrightening. Just a man, not much older or taller than I am, awkward like I am. His expression well-meaning under his untamed mane of hair. He saw me standing alone. He just wanted to say hi and congratulations. This is the lion, Alan, right? He has now returned to just being a normal, regular guy. And so he makes some small talk with her. And then he says, by the way, I enjoyed your thesis. You did? Yeah, very much. It was... He trails off, searching for the right word. Last year, I would have been on my hind legs, waiting for this word like a starved dog. Panting for this biscuit of adjectives that would make or break me, that could make or break me. This afternoon, I just wait. Different from what I expected, from what you came in with anyway. I liked it. So, also indicative that maybe over... I don't know, this semester, the separation from the bunnies, this whole thing, she was able to find herself, right? She wasn't waiting to get this like approval and addiction of approval and people pleasing to people. So maybe she found a little bit of like, I don't know, internal things going on. She ends up moving on and having some other conversations, ends up running into the bunnies and the teacher. And the teacher is again asking for clarification of like, what did you girls do? How did you guys get hurt? What are you talking about? And she does not come to their rescue. So then there's a section break. The bench is empty. It gives dangerously when I sit down, smoking the first of what will surely be 5 million cigarettes. The noises of graduation are now distant behind me, the white gauze undulating in the breeze, the camera-clicking mothers, the ever-nodding fathers with their hands in their pockets looking a little lost even when they are not lost, the glaring siblings, the gowned graduates glowing beneath their tilted caps, waiting to get their picture taken by the gates, by the buildings she never entered except once for my sake. You know I only come here for you. She's thinking of Ava, who only went to the school one time and into the buildings because she was looking for Samantha when she went missing for those 2 months. All of it's behind me now, leaving me like my spilled words on the floor of the lion's living room, so leave them there. I stare at the swan gliding along the surface of the water. What did I imagine? That she would be here? Samantha, hey. Jonah is coming toward me in a cap and gown, waving. He must have walked in the general ceremony, the only one among our cohort to do so. And he approaches her and he's like, hey, I took some photos of you walking up to the podium earlier. And they go on talking and they hit it off. There's quite a bit of flirting, and he says, hey, so where are you headed now anyway? Like, tonight? Oh, probably just going home, sit on the roof and celebrate with the raccoon priests. Watch the dog become the wolf, feel the wind cupping my face like the foresty palms of his hands, stare at that patch of dirt in the corner of the garden where a flowering tree is now blooming. Raccoon priests, huh? Sounds cool. The swan moves closer to us now, skirting the pond's edge. I think of that spring morning just before dawn, how she appeared at my side on the bench, how I felt so suddenly alive with possibility. Saw her in a wondrous world, an open hand, a person I knew in my bones would become someone I love. How I had no idea. How the not knowing was the most wonderful and terrible thing. I gaze at the swan floating by the bank. Maybe I could do it again. Imagine her back. Live on the roofs and trees of my mind with her beside me forever. Take her mesh hand in mine and this time never let go. I watch it float away into the shivering shade. You could come with me, I say to Jonah, if you want. I lower my gaze to the mud. Sure, Samantha, says the mud. I'd love to. And that's how the book ends. She actually did make a friend in the end, right? She's actually hanging out with a real life human being and getting away from the bunnies. And maybe there was some actual magic through all of this, or delusions, but also there was like other outside people that were in on this as well. So can it all be true? Can the culty behavior of a female friend group, a toxic female friend group at that, be interpreted as cultish behavior and exaggerated through the lens of our narrator that already has a flair for the dramatic, as confirmed by their reflections of their mother talking to them when they were growing up, right? Like, is this story true with the exaggerations? Is there any magic realism? Or, like, is there any actual magic in what's happening? Is any of it real at all? Or is all of it real? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is I don't know where the line is of what's fake and what's real. Which is kind of just interesting, I guess. I don't know. This is just so weird. And then she just like moves on and then hopefully, befriends Jonah and gets a real friend and is able to like be happy and find herself. It seems like she was on the right path. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I felt about this book. Like, it was good. It was interesting. I really enjoyed parts of the writing. And then parts of it felt overly done. Or the way that it was said, or like the one of her literally walking off into the sunset. I was just like, oh, why? We were doing so good. Also, sorry if you hear like clattering in the back. My cat is playing with a box. Is anybody surprised? Yeah, and then other times it just felt like it was just a little over the top. And some, like I said, and then there was just like some like grammar and like weird punctuation problems that it just felt like unedited in a way. And then some of it got a little overly repetitive, in my opinion. Like, that was a little bit frustrating. But I love the concept. Like I said, there were parts of the story and parts of the idea of it that, like, I really, really enjoyed. And I really, really enjoyed the way that it was. And I always felt like I was just kind of like, I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Like I said, I think there's, like, a deeper, like, almost like a C plot going on about the town itself of Warren and it being referred to as the body a couple of times. And then some of the other like the and then capital word in reference to like making a town an entity or making like a whatever an entity and like a personification of all of these things. Like, I'm sure there's like something meaningful there. I think it was also like interesting commentary on female friendships and loneliness. And I love commentary on those things. And the like toxic desire to fit in and like how far are you willing to go or willing to lose yourself to have friends or to feel, you know, a part of something. I think that that's always like an interesting question to ask yourself. Like, how far are you willing to go to avoid loneliness? And what happens if like loneliness and depression are inherent, or all of these things about you are inherent and they just can't be fixed and they don't go away and it's just part of your being. Other than like the general idea of like creating a person, like an imaginary person of all of the things you loved, or the whole like the scenes and the comfort and the memories becoming that person or the embodiment of that person. I love that idea as like a storytelling device, or whatever the word would be for that. I love that idea as like a plot. I'll probably think about that, but I don't think there's anything else from this that I'm going to like think about again, if that makes sense. This is probably like a solid 3 for me in that regard. Just all around, just a super, super solid 3, I would say. I don't know. What are you thinking? How'd you like it? Did you predict anything? Were you right about anything? Did you get blindsided a whole bunch? How are we feeling? Let me know. Comment down below. I appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.